When you point the finger, we know we're live.
Not that finger.
Come on. Paul.
Hey, this is Samuel. I tell you.
Press
one
the wrong
time
button.
I'm gonna do it.
Turn off your audio. Okay, officially,
Sam.
we are
Only
live.
Sam is
Turn down
Sam.
your audio.
We are live.
Oh, we're
Podcast
live, we're
episode
live.
43. By the way, you missed it. If you were listening to us 30 seconds ago, the team thinks we should get a egg white sponsorship for the podcast because I have my egg whites and
Every
wine,
morning.
and wine.
Danielle would love that.
And one of these days on the podcast, we should do the podcast with a glass of wine and see how that goes. Maybe it'll be more entertaining second half of it.
What
But
you don't know is I get drunk every time before I come
we
to
have the
this podcast.
We'll have
great
Ron Bauer
Danielle
sponsor.
DiMartino booth here with us in Boca. And
She's
we have
here.
Adam Sosnick today. Adam, look at the camera and show off your glasses, please. Let them see that. That good look, Superman,
doing?
a.k.a. Adam Sosnick.
I
See how
gotta.
smart he is?
I have
Just
to
like
like
that.
step up my IQ to even sit next to Danielle, so I had to wear my glasses. I forgot my pocket protector, but I did bring the Visine
Here
for
at the
Danielle.
mouth of the rats.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's Boca Raton.
Yeah, so
Originally it was ratones. Originally it was plural.
Danielle, something tells me you want to bust out your Venezuelan Spanish accent while you're here in South Florida.
Chévere.
Danielle's feeling the vibe. She's giving the besos to the people.
by the way, I wish there was an element of a camera on to see our conversation yesterday for the podcast prep because
very
that
fun.
was real podcast
That was a
quality.
podcast.
That was
That's what I'm
podcast
hoping Danielle brings today. She
I
might have dropped a F-bomb.
I was unedited. I was totally
it was
unedited.
great.
It was like,
Adam, it's off camera. It's
I said
protected.
might have.
No, I'm
might
not-
allegedly.
Yeah,
It was-
but it could be
it-
speculation.
It's a lot of fun.
It's speculative.
in
It's-
plain
fun.
sight, she
Yes.
was raised on a trading floor and she speaks like it. She's just like a sailor.
Yes.
Whoa, where'd that come from?
So we got a lot of good topics today. We're going to find out what Danielle's thoughts are on the $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and we'll talk about, with all the pump of money into the economy, what's going to happen. Obviously, this last week we found out about the wealth tax. Elizabeth Warren's going around saying if you have more than $50 million, every penny above $1 million, $50 million, you're going to pay 2 cents, and then above $1 billion, it's 5 cents. And SPACs are now a $700 billion market. Lyft jumps as company marks best week for rides since the start of the pandemic. Tesla to launch full self-driving car with subscription within 4 months. That's pretty crazy to say within 4 months. And
Well, they better hurry because everybody else is doing their business.
everybody else is doing
Everybody's
it though?
doing electric vehicles.
Okay,
Sorry.
but self-driving electric vehicles. I mean, you're sitting like I would
That's
need
next level.
That is not a bad idea for a guy like me.
That's
sit.
the best
it
idea
goes
for a guy
someone
like
like
you.
me. Yeah. So then, by the way, we should probably switch. You should drive cars. I should probably not drive cars and take Ubers because you actually drive slow and you're very
I'll drive
responsible.
slow
Yeah.
and safe.
Yes.
And you don't have to. You can text and drive and do your Zooms. I've
Yeah.
never seen somebody
That's
text,
efficient.
drive, Zoom, conference calls. Allegedly, that's
Just
what Pat
speculation.
does.
Stay off the
That's a lot of
sidewalks.
speculation
Don't
this
drive
morning.
on the sidewalks.
Yes.
That's dangerous, Patrick.
Google to stop selling targeted ads based on browsing history. So those cookies may be going away. LVMH market cap $320 billion, becoming the highest valued company in the European
That's
stock
where your
market.
stimulus dollars are going, taxpayers.
You think so? to Louis? So they're killing it.
Hello.
Governor Abbott did something that Danielle DiMartino may not agree with, which we're going to have a nice banter here about that. Opening up fully 100% and says no more mandating masks to the point where 50 Cent is thinking about leaving California to a different place because
50
he...
Cent lives in California.
New York, it's
New York,
in
okay.
New York too, because he's not happy about
Danielle's old
wearing the
town.
mask.
Somebody
yes.
say premature emasculation. Hello.
Ooh, well
There you go.
played.
Okay,
That's
so
a good
we'll touch up
play
on that.
words there, Danielle.
Target, Toyota, GM, Macy's, and Texas are going to keep wearing masks. Texas isn't the only state lifting COVID-19 restriction. There's other 11 states, which we'll cover that as well.
Mississippi.
Yes, Mississippi was on that list as well. Brazil's oil industry shakeup could be devastating for its economy. I know you got some things to say about that. California is poised for $19 billion despite COVID-19 lockdown. Second former aide accuses Governor Cuomo of sexual harassment. By the way, I don't know if you saw him yesterday on TV, how he responded to that was pretty interesting. Chris Cuomo criticized for hypocrisy after he says he won't cover brothers' controversy. I have some thoughts on that.
Yep.
And then Elizabeth Warren rips stock buybacks as nothing but paper manipulation. And in couple pop culture, Dr. Seuss, 6 books have been canceled. You got to get them off. They're not selling them. Yesterday, the
Please.
top 8 selling books on Amazon were all Dr. Seuss. 8 for 8.
You bought how many
I
of them? A
bought
couple
8
hundred?
for 8. No, I bought 8 for 8 to support Dr. Seuss.
Wow.
Good
So
for
then we
you.
had Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen team up for a new podcast, which I believe will blow up. So having said that, Let's get into the stimulus. And the reason why I want to get into the stimulus is because of a conversation I had with a realtor yesterday, okay? So first, let me read off what we have. Obviously, American Rescue Plan, Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package. The $1.9 trillion stimulus package includes direct stimulus payments of $1,400 per person, extending unemployment compensation, raising the minimum wage, continuing eviction and foreclosure moratoriums, and increasing the child tax credit while making it refundable. It provides funds for the state and local governments to help compensate for lost tax revenue money for schools from kindergartens through 8th grade to safely reopen amidst the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, $1.9 trillion. That's $4 trillion in the last 2 years, right? In the last 12 months.
6.1 when you add it all up.
When you add it all up.
Post-COVID.
Yeah, some are saying.
Where are we getting the $6 trillion? Because I know the CARES Act was $2 trillion. This is potentially another $2 trillion.
906 billion.
That was what?
January?
That was before Trump left office.
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost $5 trillion.
Well, and then there was other, expenditures still taking place. So say $5 to $6 trillion. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning it. I'm just like trying to see where all these numbers are
this
at.
Is
And all of it pissed into the wind, by the way. None of it productive.
Danielle, I saw an article saying the fact that 20 to 40% of the currency ever printed in the history of America was printed in the last 12 months.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And we just assume that the dollar is going to maintain its hegemony, that it's going to maintain its reserve currency status. We take it for granted because we've had it for 100 years. So
what's going to happen? Because I hear two different schools of thought. And let me kind of give you both of them. One is, you got these, P ratios that are just ridiculous. 1250 Tesla, okay? You got these Schiller P ratios today that are indicating that, market's going to be facing
99th percentile.
That's pretty scary to be there. You got interest rates went up a little bit, which is good to see that taking place. A little bit went up, and you and I were kind of going, seeing if you want it, if you don't want it. But a guy yesterday, the real estate guy, I'm talking to this guy. He is the seller's real estate agent. Obviously, he's not representing me.
And it is a seller's market.
It is a seller's market today in Florida, and it's ridiculous. So he says, let me tell you why I need to buy this house and why this value of this land is going to double in the next 3 to 5 years. I said, tell me why. He says, because that $1.9 trillion they put into the economy, that's $4 trillion last 12 months. He says, inflation's going to the roof, and the value of things that cannot be duplicated is going to go to the roof, such as land, okay? So he's not selling hard assets, he's saying land. So, we talk about land, gold, baseball cards, all this other stuff that's going to the roof. Is this going to make the economy and Dow go to 40, 50, 60,000? Or is this eventually going to get America? Because it seems like we're on a run rate. I know this whole thing about 128 months that we had economic expansion, COVID disrupted it. We're back at it again. So if you take COVID out, it could have been a 140-month economic expansion that we have. What is going to happen with all this money we're printing?
We were going into recession anyways in 2020. The Federal Reserve needed an excuse to print money. You've never had a year where you have global trade, world trade, contract for a 12-month solid without the global economy going into recession. That was 2019. We were headed there anyways. The Fed needed an excuse to bail out the bond market, and it got it with COVID. It needed a black swan event, and it got it. So that's the one thing that people need to understand is this was not, the slowdown that we had was not catalyzed by COVID. It wasn't. COVID was needed for the Fed to come in with their printing press. And the Fed got it. They needed the excuse. There was all this repo madness. Go back and look at the end of 2019 when the Fed was doing not QE because there were issues with overnight lending in America. I mean, this is all in the weeds and wonky, but it was happening, that there was real disruption in the overnight markets, and the Fed needed an excuse to start pumping huge amounts of money into the economy, and it got it. It got it with COVID. And that's why we are where we are today, because of the printing press. But you cannot have sustained inflation with 19 million Americans collecting unemployment benefits. You can't. You can have a massive inflation scare, and that's going to benefit your real estate, not your real estate agent, but the seller's real estate agent. Mm-hmm. That's going to benefit them because it's a great narrative. It's fantastic, but it won't be sustained. Not until you get these people to work.
Okay, so what does that mean, though? It won't be sustained. Okay, let's get them back to work. People eventually go back to work. You remember when Barack Obama said unemployment benefits 6 months? No, 12 months. No, 24 months.
Well, this new stimulus package pushes it out to September.
Sure, but eventually people are going to go back to work. They're going to have to go back to work. And I know 3.5 million people you're saying fully lost, like permanently.
Permanent job losses.
Right, 3.5
are at
million.
recessionary levels.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is, like, look, if you and I go out there and keep raising debt, okay, we keep getting credit cards, and we get more credit cards and more credit. That's what America's doing.
We've been doing it for years.
Yeah, but at this level, but how come a massive, ridiculous crash hasn't yet hit? What is the key indicator for that to be taking place?
There's no replacement for the dollar. The euro's a joke. Italy's a mess. They never, after we had the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009, our banks were forced to clean up their balance sheets, get rid of the bad debts. That didn't happen in Europe. Japan's, goodbye. So there's no replacement for the dollar until China gets to be bigger. And because of COVID and how we've approached stimulus spending versus how China has approached stimulus spending, it was going to be 2030 that China was the largest economy in the world. Now it's 2028. If their currency continues to appreciate versus the dollar, it'll be 2026, 5 years from now, that China is the bigger economy. And then we'll have a separate discussion about what's going to replace the dollar. And then your real estate agent, seller guy, he's going to be right then.
Okay, my timeline is 2025. What's your timeline?
For China?
No, my timeline for the market to have a massive collapse, like we're going to feel the pain, I have 2025. What are you thinking?
Once the recognition is out there that we're not going to be the global economic superpower, it's game over. That's going to take a few years to happen.
Unpack game over.
Yeah, what does it mean, game over?
Well, we benefit because we can borrow at such low cost because we're the global reserve currency. So you have all of the liberals in Congress saying it is a free lunch. We can borrow as much as we want. 1.9 trillion today. We can have $5 trillion, $7 trillion deficits every year. There's never going to be consequences for the amount of debt we're taking on. And that works until it stops working.
But you have people like Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell who I wouldn't. So, like, I know you have strong feelings on that.
Hashtag J&J.
So, but they're championing.
Of course they are.
All this
We've had
stimulus.
40 years of falling interest rates. It's all they seem to think can possibly happen. But they're not studying history. They're not studying the fact that Great Britain lost the pound as British pound sterling lost its reserve currency status because Great Britain took on too much debt. So if you start to think that the rules don't apply after 100 years or so, and it's been 100 years.
Let me follow up with that. Speaking of studying history, so we're familiar what happened 100 years ago. World War I, Spanish flu, roaring 20s, rocking and rolling, prohibition, people are sneaking drinks, Boom, 1929, I think it was October, was the start of the Great Depression, right? Which lasted all the way to the 1930s. So speaking of history and history repeating itself, you're predicting 1928 potentially, 1925 potentially. Are we
2025.
I'm sorry, 2025, 2028. Are we essentially saying that that's potentially what we're in line for, is another Great Depression, worse than certainly COVID or
I'm
the
not so
Great
sure that we
Recession?
have a whole decade in front of us. This is not a repeat of the roaring 20s. If you look back at the price to earnings ratio in December of 1920, it was 4.8. Okay. I'm going to make this really simple.
Yeah.
It was 4.8 in December of 1920. 100 years later, in December of 2020, it was 7 times that level.
Say that one more time.
Stocks were 7 times more expensive coming into 2021 than they were going into 1921. 7 times more expensive. Okay. So you can't convince me that we're at the precipice of a roaring decade for the U.S. economy.
What do you mean stocks are 7 times more expensive?
The price to earnings ratio, the Cape Shiller that looks back over was 4.8 times earnings in December 1920. It was 7 times that level in December of 2020.
Yeah. That's a concern. So for me, I trust math more than I trust enthusiasm.
Well, then you trust what I just said. 7 times more expensive.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'm at the math side. I trust math, right? When it comes down to things like this, math is going to tell you what the future is going to look like. You just have to look at the right math, right? But the part I think about is the following. So when World War I, when Germany had the debt that they had to pay off with the reparations, they're like, dude, we don't have this kind of money to pay us. So they went quietly behind closed doors, and what do? They started printing money to pay off the debt. They paid it off, but hyperinflation took Germany to crazy levels, and then, boom, it took them a while to recover from it. Why are so many brilliant minds in finance so optimistic about the direction the economy is going? Why are they so optimistic?
You got to talk your book.
You're saying they're trying to sell a book? Is that
No,
what
you
mean?
have to. Your book of business. You have to.
Okay.
I mean, it's their jobs to pump up the market. It's their jobs to keep people invested in the stock market. It's their jobs to say, for the long haul, you're always going to get paid off.
What's your level of trust for Jerome Powell and or Janet Yellen? Your level of trust. 10 out of 10 is they're the best. I love them. 1 is I wouldn't trust them.
All right, so I'm going to send you a copy of a book called Fed Up.
Okay, what you wrote. I'm familiar with this.
It's got Janet's words in it.
Okay.
Okay.
What are you saying?
But for the people that haven't read the book.
She's a UC Berkeley educated labor economist who's in charge of the biggest economy in the world, who doesn't understand the financial system like she should. And she is in a place where she can finally lay the groundwork to policy in the United States not benefiting the top 1%, but benefiting everybody, which will ignite inflation like you've never seen.
That's a bad thing?
It's the idea of helicopter money. It's the idea of getting money directly to the people, as opposed to saying there'll be a trickle-down effect. If we make lending easier, if we make borrowing costs lower, then companies are going to borrow and spend and hire. That has not worked. Instead, they bought back their shares. And
$42 billion.
You've seen the financialization of America, which is non-productive. It does not create jobs. So Janet Yellen is bitter that she was at the head of the Fed when this wealth effect, when wealth inequality was widening. If she has the power now to reopen the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 to allow for direct deposits to the people. There's no Wall Street in between. There's no intermediary. You're going to get money directly to the people. And you want inflation, you'll get inflation then.
So, by the way, it was $25 billion that Berkshire Hathaway bought back of their shares, but
because there's nothing to buy. It's your math. It's too expensive.
Yeah. Well, it's also banking on yourself. Like, we're going to.
Well, you know where the value is.
Yeah, you know where the value is. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I.
And that was the most disappointing letter Warren Buffett. I mean, he's 90. I get it, but he didn't take a stand on anything controversial. It was a wah-wah. Seriously.
America's the best. Bet on America.
Bet on America.
You know, fixed income is this.
You're coming out of the most controversial presidential election. Your murder rate's going through the roof. The country's clearly in a crisis mode, and you say nothing about what the ills of the country when you have.
What would you expect him to say? Like, what would you want to hear from him?
A generation ago, he said that share buybacks were weapons of mass destruction. Excuse me, derivatives were weapons of mass destruction, and he derided share buybacks in his prior life because he was like, if you've got a bunch of people's money and you can't put it to work and make investments and grow their money, then what are you doing in business? That was his attitude about share buybacks years ago. And he took a stand in saying that derivatives were weapons of mass destruction. He didn't say anything that was like, wow, controversial. Nothing. He was like, Apple's great. Well, no shit. Sorry. I mean, we all have it, right? Apple. But he didn't. It was very disappointing.
What about Elizabeth Warren and her thoughts?
Well, no. Let's stay on this. Let's stay on this. I don't want to get away from this because this, to me, when we're talking economy and maths, so you're saying you're gonna get what you're gonna get, which is inflation. Like you just said that before we went. But
you have to have a crisis. You can't just willy-nilly reopen the Federal Reserve Act. You have to have something happen to where there's Nomura, big bank out of Japan, said that every 20 cents of the dollar that's printed of stimulus goes into the economy. In other words, 80% doesn't. They were saying that the multiplier effect of stimulus spending is crashing. We know that 53% of the last stimulus bill was saved. So what good does it do to spend all of this money if it's not being injected into the economy, if it's not creating jobs? And that, I think, is where the Democrats are really, really missing the message, because they say they want to do infrastructure spending. They say that there's another bill coming, but they're ramming this all through with reconciliation. There's not a single person in the GOP, much to say nothing of moderate Democrats who are on board with what they're doing. So they're going to burn every damn bridge before they get to true stimulus spending that creates jobs. I mean, you could fall into a damn pothole in New York City if you're in a small car and be lost forever. There's bridges that are collapsing. And you've got high-speed railways in China that go zillions of miles an hour, and they're in the middle of constructing 30 airports and getting ready to eat the United States' lunch, and we can't even pass fiscal spending that creates jobs and repairs our infrastructure. I mean, FDR wrote the book. I'm no huge FDR fan, but it was a public-private partnership, and it created generations, plural, of productivity and job creation. And we're giving people money to not work? Whoa, hashtag winning.
At a 7% unemployment, though, at a 7% unemployment. We're not talking about at 11%, 10%, at 7% unemployment. We've had 7% many different times.
We have, and it's not a bad level. It's 6.3, and that's all good and well, but that's because so many people have left the workforce. So that's your math.
Right.
If you've got people who've given up, that's why you have a 6.3% unemployment rate, but still 19 million Americans collecting unemployment benefits. And that's why you've got this stimulus spending, is just to kind of we're going to have the best economic growth in America in 2021 since 1983. It'll be 5-6% GDP. We're going to have a blockbuster year.
That's what they've been projecting, 6% GDP.
You can't jam $2 trillion into the economy and not expect GDP to grow. It's going to grow.
Okay, so then,
but it's not going to create jobs. So you're going to come out at the other end of it going, oh God, we need more stimulus spending, and more yet, and more yet. And so you're going to get the Stephanie Keltons of the world all excited.
So you don't think this 1.9 is the last 1.9 we're doing the next 2-3 years?
No.
So you think there's more 1.9s coming up?
At least $1 trillion infrastructure bill, right?
$1 trillion.
No. I'm talking
$1 trillion doesn't even address. I mean, look, there's $2-3 trillion just to do the repairs. I'm not talking about modernization. I'm talking about repairs.
And then potential green energy bill, right?
Oh God, help me.
Well, let's still stay on this, because here's my thought. So Dow's right now at what? 30 what? 31?
31.
Okay, so let's say it's at 31. If it's going to be a 6% GDP, and if you don't think things are going to turn around in the next, 3-4 years, say 2025, 2026, when China, whose plan they came up with, made in China 2025, their plan was to be the number one superpower by 2025. They're on track to be that by 2025, 2026. Where do you see Dow going the next 12, 24 months? Do you see it going to 40, 50, 60?
That I don't do.
Are you optimistic it's going to be going?
I think that liquidity,
the way it's going, it's going to go higher.
I think we have a correction in front of us that we're in the midst of right now. And between the money printing that we have to come, the liquidity that's going to be injected in the economy, you could certainly see a correction and then another run up, another melt up.
I don't see this slowing down the next couple of years.
Well, you said you don't see this happening.
But that's just liquidity. You're just talking about you can't have a drought if it doesn't stop raining. And the Fed's going to keep printing money as long as we have license to do so, because we have King Dollar, which has been weaponized.
It's actually a great analogy. Can't have a drought if it keeps raining. They're making it rain.
They're making it rain. They're printing
straight
money.
Up. They're at the club making it rain.
You've got Janet Yellen in the house. I mean, the rain making is not going to stop.
Economist.
DJ Janet Yellen,
Labor
making it rain.
Even worse.
I mean, she would when she was the chair of the Fed, and she would go in front of Congress and do her testimony, and they would ask her about financial regulation. Her eyeballs would roll into the back of her head. She was so bored. I'm sorry, but Steve Mnuchin was a master at what he did. And
You're a Mnuchin fan.
I'm not saying I'm a Mnuchin fan. I'm saying he understood his job, and he understood the plumbing of the financial system, and he understood what needed to keep the wheels on the bus and keep it going. That's not Janet Yellen.
But what about Jerome Powell? I know you've been pretty outspoken about Janet Yellen. What are your thoughts on Jerome Powell?
I mean, look, his net worth is somewhere between $100 and $150 million. I think he's done.
Wow.
Done? February 2022, his term is up, and the woman who donated to Hillary Clinton, Lael Brainerd, is poised to rise.
That's who you think is going to be the next chairman of the Fed, chairwoman of the Fed?
I think so.
Wow, we got a prediction here.
By the way, if you're enjoying the podcast so far, smash that subscribe button. Yimi Moreno, thank you for the $100 you just gave to the podcast. So now, short sellers and Elon Musk. Last week we talked about, I asked a question from Adam and Tom. I said, who's next to be permanently banned from Twitter? That's like Trump. You got Trump personality permanently banned from Twitter. And I brought up Elon Musk because, some of the stuff he talks about, hey,
he's very influential.
Very, very influential. He's got a lot. Look what he did to Bitcoin. Then he plays with Bitcoin. Look what he does with short. He's just playing nonstop, right? So is what he's doing okay? Is what he's doing with Twitter, is he that brilliant where he's not crossing the line and he's just playing games with the market to show how much influence he has?
Well, if it was Elon Musk in a vacuum, maybe so. But he's the Pied Piper. So he has plenty of people following every move he makes. Mm-hmm. So you can't say Bitcoin's the next it girl and then a few days later be like, just kidding. You're toying with small investors. And speaking of Elizabeth Warren, and you've got Gary Gensler coming in the Securities and Exchange Commission, and he's looking into these influential type of voices. So, but I'm going to push back for just 2 seconds and say it was a bad line that was crossed when they took Donald Trump off Twitter. It just was. It set a bad precedent because now we can have these conversations about who's next. And that's not what free speech is all about. It's not.
So you're for Trump staying on?
I think that the precedent that was set is a bad thing. It's kind of like the Democrats saying, kind of like AOC, God love her, saying we need to get rid of the filibuster. It's like, well, wait a minute. If the midterms flip the House and the Senate in 2022, which is perfectly viable, and you got rid of the filibuster, how are you going to like that then? So you need to watch what you do because you're setting the next generation of precedent when you do it. And it could come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, Dorsey doesn't seem like he's going to flip on that. He's sticking to it. He doesn't sound like he's going to do anything about it. But let's talk about Elizabeth Warren. You brought it up. She proposed a tax on the wealthy. U.S. billionaires would have paid a combined $114 billion for 2020 under an ultra-millionaire tax that Senator Elizabeth Warren proposed. And the way the bill works is anything you have, $50 million net worth, anything above it, it's a 2% tax on your current wealth. Anything above $1 billion is a 3% tax on top of your billion that you would owe. Based on all the wealth, American billionaires at the end of 2020, a decade of wealth on them would fund about 3/4 of President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. So they're kind of trying to get the money back for that. A separate analysis of the University of UC Berkeley, which, again, Janet Yellen estimated that the tax would generate $3 trillion in revenues over the next 10 years. An interesting study done by UC Berkeley.
God love him.
Amazon Jeff Bezos would have paid $5.7 billion in wealth taxes in 2020. Bezos would have paid $2 billion. Elon Musk would have paid $4.6 billion. Gates would have paid $3.6 billion. Zuck would have paid $3 billion. Thoughts on the wealth tax?
She's tried it before.
I remember that.
So, look, you have to have buy-in from your own party. And at last check, the Democrats were no longer a party for the people. They've long since sold themselves out to corporate sponsors. So they have to be on board. Where did you find Fresca?
You want a Fresca?
You want one?
Yes, I'd
We'll
love a
get you a Fresca.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, Fresca.
But Fresca's it's a really hard to get your hands on.
It is, but we have connections with
we got
Sam,
we got
Sam
guys
here from Colombia.
We got a Fresca
and
guy.
Laura, and so Sam and Laura
She'll be here.
Yeah, you're going to get your egg sponsor like in 5 minutes because they're going to trade you for Fresca.
Today's podcast is sponsored by
Fresca.
No, look, she's tried this before. The figures sound like they're big, but to a lot of these multi-billionaires, they're rounding errors. And for anybody who's offended by it, they're just going to leave. Just look at what's happened with New York and New Jersey and the people who have moved to the great state of Florida because they're offended by bad tax policies. These things never work out the way they seem, but they make for really good sound bites. They do.
Do they though? Do they? When she goes out there and saying, like, I'm sitting there wondering, saying, okay, you do a wealth tax on your next campaign. You need Wall Street to fund you. What are they going to say to you? Like, what are you talking
exactly.
about?
But that's
Be
what I'm talking
quiet.
about. That's what I'm saying. She's not going to get buy-in from her own party.
It's almost as if she's permanently disqualifying herself of ever running and winning anything.
But that's her job, and she'll get reelected. She'll be in the grave, and she'll still be in office.
But not at the highest level. You're talking about at what she's doing right now.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are your thoughts on it?
I guess my question is, well, number one, the tax code in America is ridiculous. I mean, it's the most complicated thing. Just you make $100,000 a year to do your taxes. It's very difficult. So now you're talking about these people who are worth billions and billions and billions, and the tax codes and the loopholes and the tax write-offs and this and that. You know, I'm the more and more I hear about flat tax. Obviously, Ross Perot talked about that.
Simplify it. If you
keep
simplify
it simple,
that's
stupid. Like,
funny.
the more and more like I think about it, it's like, why?
I'm agreeing with Adam. He's very smart today with his glasses.
Yes, this is it.
He is.
But all right, but here's what I'm gonna flip it and not be so smart.
This is why you get the comments that you get sometimes where people come after Soy Boy Mafia. But go ahead, tell us.
You know what? Thick skin, all right, bro? I got thick glasses, thick
Plus,
skin.
he hasn't shaved for a while, so he's got an even bigger layer of protection.
So, works on him, though.
Flat tax. But
by the way, we just found out today that a young Rudy Giuliani and a young Adam, Rudy would never be in Adam's league, right? No. Isn't that what it is?
I would never date a young hot Giuliani. Never.
Yeah.
I would like to know...
Don't
I would
say
like
young
to get,
and hot in the same sentence
I would
as
like
Giuliani.
to hear our people. We were having a conversation before the podcast.
Put a young Rudy Giuliani picture up. Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Here I am putting my glasses on, trying to talk taxes.
By the way, all of you back here, you heard this. Adam thinks he's a dime. Okay, Adam thinks there aren't many men better looking than him in the world. But go to a young Rudy Giuliani.
Look at that.
Look.
Go to. Look at that right there.
That's a great guy.
Okay,
great
0 to 10.
This
what do you rank him?
Cuomo.
He's a 12.
He's not a 12, but he's at least a 7.
You said, okay, let's
he's
be honest.
He's at least a 7, 7
You
and a half.
called him a good-looking guy, and I questioned you.
Wait a minute. What is good looking to you? I think he's a good-looking guy. Look at that. I think that's a good look.
What's wrong with that?
Go to what about the one on the left right there? Kai, go down. You're going down, and stop. Bop, right there. What about that picture?
Which picture?
The one where his face is falling off and melting.
Buddy, he is how old in that picture?
That's right now, recently.
What do you think you're going to look like?
But here's my
80?
point.
Like, you think you're going to look like this beautiful looking, handsome face you got going on?
I got to say, you guys still have your hair, so you have no idea.
The point that I was making about Giuliani, because obviously
before you took shots at his
the
looks.
people want to hear about my thoughts on taxes. They can't wait to hear my thoughts on taxes. I get it. My point with Giuliani is...
Here we go.
3 words. Fall from grace. This was America's mayor. We're talking about what a mess New York City is. We're talking about Cuomo. We're talking about de Blasio. Yeah. Danielle mentioned, why can't we get someone like Giuliani back? And I said, yes. New York. I said, yes, he was the man in the 90s. Cleaned up the mafia, cleaned up the streets, took the trash out. 9/11, he was America's mayor. He was a hero. And
I was there on 9/11, and he was everybody's hero.
Now he's a punchline in a Borat movie. His face is leaking. He's doing press conferences in front of Four Seasons porno shop.
Think about
He's had a fall from grace. That's all I'm saying.
Think about the 2 men who were on the pile in downtown New York, W and Giuliani.
Yeah.
Whose legacy is intact? Who didn't say a word through all of Trump's administration?
And Obama.
He totally graceful
His
man.
legacy is probably better now than it was when he left office. When he left office, he was...
But wait a minute. Are you suggesting the strategy is to disappear and don't do anything?
No.
Because that was his strategy.
No, I don't...
And by the way, I mean, we had Bush at our event a year and a half ago, and I got to tell you, when we had 100 people that took pictures with him, this is pre-COVID, you know what was the most common thing everybody said to him? They said, you know, President Bush, I got to tell you, I thought you were the I thought you were the devil. I've just fallen in love with you today. Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was this.
He got 63% of the Hispanic vote in the state of Texas when he ran for governor the second time. 63% of Hispanics.
That's pretty solid right there.
Uptight white boy.
Yeah.
Yale. So sorry.
You got a lot.
But he would have a beer with you.
A man of the people.
Yeah.
And
so no longer he would have a beer with you, but he would.
That's true.
Yeah. No longer, because he changed his life after an incident.
But I think what he did.
So you like his flat taxes, is what you're saying?
Back to that. I think what George W. Bush, clearly his biggest mistake was, invading Iraq and weapons of mass destruction. Essentially,
you mean Dick Cheney?
Awesome.
You mean Dick Cheney?
He's a puppet for Dick
Fresco,
Cheney.
You'll be even smarter.
Damn, give me a Fresco. And what did he do since he's left office? Not do anything stupid. Giuliani opens doors to just like, where can I open the stupid door? And he just walks right into it.
You know, I had a friend of mine that I gave this advice to one time. I said, you know what your biggest challenge is? He says, what's that? I said, when there's crisis, I never worry about you. He says, why? I said, because you're always going to come out of it. 100% you're going to come out of it. I said, but when there's no crisis and everything's good, I worry about you. He says, why? I said, because you freaking create crisis.
Oh, is that his deal?
You don't like to be in peace. Giuliani is a freaking wartime guy. He needs that.
He needs the drama.
Yeah, but that also means sometimes when you get into a street fight, you're going to get your ass kicked, and they're going to show that highlight of a knockout, and your name is Tyson getting knocked out by Buster Douglas. That's going to happen.
And this is what happens with Giuliani over the last,
so,
3 to 5 years.
Politicians need a Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm. If there's nothing going on, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's what George W. Bush did. He said,
but
look.
the point I was going to wrap up with, but some retire on time. Some continue playing basketball, and their legacy looks bad. There's timing in retirement. Like Bush disappeared, legacy got better, right?
Yeah.
Some stay in the mix too long, and then there's too many opportunities to screw up.
And then there's Tom Brady. Hello.
Yeah, 7, which
the
is,
man.
And by the way, he's still continuing. First question his wife asked after they won 7 is what? Is this enough? Like, what do you need to do next? He says, no, I got to go. So what else do you need in your life? He says, I need the 8th. He said, why the 8th? So can you imagine the wiring? Go back to your flat taxes, Mr. UC Berkeley Union labor economist.
We're going back to the flat tax.
Flat taxes
this is going to make
take
for
all
a very
I'm with Adam on this. If you want Warren Buffett to pay more taxes than his secretary, then just tax him. You don't need. Get rid of all of the CPAs.
You know when you have an economist agreeing with something that I just came up with over here? Not that I invented the flat tax.
You're pretty smart as well. So
if you want to get rid of all of the
there's just
red tape, then just do it. Just tax them. Period.
So you're good with flat tax?
I think it should be in the conversation again. I think everything should be on the table again.
Not everything, but what are the chances of flat? What are the chances
Cheers, Danielle.
Salud.
Cheers, PBD.
I got grapefruit. What do you got? You got...
I have black cherry.
Black cherry? Here, give me a toast.
Toast.
Here's a toast to
guys,
Adam's future.
Our future looks bright. Thank you, Fresco, our proud sponsor.
You can see better with those glasses.
And Whitey's Egg Whites. Thank you, Whitey's.
So, okay, so flat taxes. Who would be against flat taxes?
Rich people.
I thought poor people would be against flat tax.
That's crazy, right? That you would think that.
I would, because if you're taxing everyone at 15%, 17%, 20%.
I mean, in theory,
the rich are getting 40%. The poor are paying, nothing, 10%.
Well, you just don't tax them if they make a certain amount or less.
Okay,
if they're below the poverty line, you just don't tax them. Period.
By the way, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. If you make below a certain
that's better than a welfare system.
Yeah. By the way, here's the thing. Watch this. Watch. This just took us to a completely different place. Which would you rather have? You guys ready? Which would you rather have? Honestly, I'm asking this to everybody. Kai, listen to this. What she just said, we're in a different free. We just made a right turn.
Yeah. U-turn. We're going this way
Watch
now.
this.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Would you rather have a minimum wage, or if you make less than 40 grand a year, you don't pay any taxes?
Hello.
Which would you take?
There's no tax.
Forget the minimum wage.
Are you seriously a minimum wager?
I'm not a minimum wager.
Thank God.
Tell him, what shirt was he wearing last week?
I love minimum wage.
$15. Bring it, like
fight for 15.
For the love of Pete. Okay. All right. Here's a little lesson.
Danielle, before you rip me a new one, he's making that up. Before you go in on me.
I support
I'm gonna
$15.
All right.
I do have a friend. I do have one of my best friends in South Florida. He's a guy. He's the champion of the fight for 15.
Adam, you have a friend in South Florida. Okay.
Yes.
Many. Everywhere you go, you run into somebody that knows this guy here.
Adamites. You call them Adamites.
There are many.
Yeah, they're out there. Soyboy Mafia.
So, but continue.
Yeah. Rip me a new one. Rip me a new one. Go ahead. I'm ready for it.
My mama was born and raised in Pearsall, Texas. The average home price in Pearsall, Texas is around $73,000. My father was born and raised in East Haven, Connecticut. It's east of New Haven. Average home price there's about $250,000. Should the average worker make $15 in Pearsall and in East Haven?
Clearly not.
Okay, good. See, next.
This is why I'm against a federal minimum wage.
Okay.
But in certain Connecticut rich areas, or South Florida, Boca Raton, there needs to be.
You've never been to East Haven. It's not.
It's not where it's at.
It's not the right side of no.
Danielle, can you get used to being in Boca Raton more often? I just want to know that.
I'm so loving it here, guys.
Okay, because I heard from the people at Louis Bossi's you had a great time last night.
Oh my gosh. Woo!
They called me this morning. They said, "Oh, by the way,
management team.
Yeah. By the way,
send her again.
Yes, we want Danielle back.
Yes.
Give her a second wake-up call.
Yes.
So
you are in favor of governors or mayors implementing some sort of minimum wage, but not federal government. Did I understand that correctly?
It is the job of, this is why
By the
we
way-
have the separation
No, all I was
of
saying is I'm eating
federal
egg
and
whites.
state.
Take the camera off. I'm trying to see if Paula's paying attention. So if I signal to you, that's what I mean. But don't worry about it. You missed the signal. Everybody else got what I was saying.
There's an egg white signal?
Okay. No. The egg white signal to Paul is get off your Instagram.
Well, you guys are all
stop
talking,
DMing
that's
your
why-
girl, okay?
No, I'm watching, but you guys are both
Well,
talking.
we know that's not a true
Paul
story.
was 6th place. Stop that, buddy.
My guy.
Paul and
hear
Paul and
me out.
Brady are going for
Guys,
8.
Hear me
Both
out.
of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly,
Top
hear me
7.
out. Danielle, I know this was just accidental how we got into the conversation. I'm actually this. If you actually pitched, you make less than 30 grand or 40 grand, don't pay any taxes.
No.
But let's eliminate minimum wage. So meaning if you're making $7.20 an hour, $7.25 an hour, whatever the number
You
is
make
right now.
15 grand
Bro,
a year.
you're making more. Pick the number. You're making $10 an hour at a job.
20 grand a year.
20 grand a year. If you're making $10 an hour, if you would have paid
Times
taxes,
two.
how much
Yeah.
are they taking taxes out of you? If you're making $10 an hour,
Well, I don't think you pay any taxes if you make less than, I think, 12 grand or 10 grand, like zero.
but
That's a
I'm
zero
saying,
tax
I'm
bracket.
saying
and
take
then
it
it goes
to
up-
40.
Okay.
Take minimum wage out, no taxes paid until you make 40 grand.
Sure.
So the only number we deal with is what? Raising or lowering that number, not minimum wage.
Cool.
So which means
I like
if
this.
we go 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, due to inflation, that 40 goes 45. That 45 goes 50. You don't pay any taxes below that. If you make above 50, you pay taxes.
I'm in.
Eliminate our
The
buddy,
minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
You're gonna Yep.
and eliminate minimum wage and eliminate the progressive tax. Just put a flat tax on
You're
it.
going to make government
What a
work,
great-
though.
what a-
Watch out.
Why is government going to work? What do you mean? It's going to
If
work?
you do something that simple, government actually works. It functions.
Buddy, that is an incredible.
Why aren't these kind of conversations
You give me
in the
frosting on the
atmosphere?
cake of term limits, and we're all good. I mean,
Wow.
look at Pat Toomey. Pat Toomey's my hero. Oh my gosh, I've got like the Pat Toomey poster on my ceiling.
Pat Toomey's your hero.
Term limits and
okay.
sticking to them.
Is Pennsylvania? Where's Pat
Pennsylvania.
Toomey? Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey. Democrat?
No,
What is Pat Toomey? I don't know. But he's moderate. Didn't he
is-
vote against Trump?
he is a moderate, and he did.
He voted against Trump. Insurrectionist.
For a guy, I love how Adam says to me.
But
you
I mean,
know,
look at people
I'm
like
not
Maxine
really- I don't
Waters.
really
I'm
not
not
that
follow
into. I'm
politics.
not in it. I'm
Look
not
at
in it.
people who have been in Congress for decades and decades and decades. They're just taking up space. They're not
Yeah.
legislating. They're not governing. They're not doing anything for the people.
Yeah,
They're
like
just
that one
taking up
guy. What's
space.
that one guy? He just won the presidency. What's his name? Oh, Biden. Just takes up space.
Stop it.
What's that one guy's deal? I'm getting assaulted here.
You know, he hasn't done a press conference yet either.
Who is that?
Joe Biden. There's tons of articles.
Who is that? Who is that guy?
Press conferences are a bitch
Sleepy
without a
Joe.
teleprompter.
Yeah,
So-
and they cut out his
Oh my God, I
feed.
said that out loud.
He was like, I'll take
Danielle has
questions.
cursed more than me, and that's a problem because
Shit.
Whoa.
Okay. All right, let's
Guys,
talk about Governor Abbott. Let's talk about Governor Abbott
boy.
because this one's about to get really exciting
Yeah.
here. Danielle's governor, to put it, no longer our governor. Ours is DeSantis, which I don't think she's
Yeah.
a fan of DeSantis either, but we'll talk about both of them. Okay, so Governor Abbott announces plan to fully reopen businesses, ending state mask mandate. Texas Republican Governor Thursday, his plans on 100%. Abbott issued an executive order that rescinds many of the state's previous orders, allowing all businesses in the state to fully reopen and revoking the statewide mask mandate. To be clear, COVID has not, suddenly disappeared, said Governor Abbott responsibly. COVID still exists in Texas, the United States, and across the globe, but it is clear from the recoveries, the vaccinations, from the reduced hospitalizations, and from the safe practices, Texans are using the state mandates are no longer needed. Businesses are able to limit capacity or implement additional safety protocols if they choose to, which is wonderful. He's leaving it up to you, Danielle, to choose and say, we believe you should wear a mask. It's a choice, right? And Governor Newsom quickly responded to the announcement on Tuesday, calling it absolutely reckless. In a Twitter post, Newsom has leaned towards stricter guidelines in California's pandemic response. Danielle, what are your thoughts on your governor?
Well, I think that he was a little upset with the straw poll at CPAC that gave him a 0% probability of being president in 2024.
So you think this is because of that?
Oh yes, I think he needed a moment.
He's looking for headlines.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you, do you think he wants to run?
Oh, let's see. 1, 2, 3. How many times did he visit the White House? 4 times? When Trump was there?
So you think he wants to run?
I think every governor has aspirations.
Every
Especially
governor.
when it's the 9th largest economy on the planet.
Okay.
You're saying if you get to that level where you're the governor of,
You have to have aspirations.
you have such high, lofty aspirations, you can see yourself being president.
Florida's former governor is in the Senate now, and he's got
but let's do
aspirations
this.
himself.
But so you touched up on one part of the whole thing. So he announces he's opening it up 100%, and he leaves it to you business owners in Texas. I'm one in Texas. I have a big business, decent-sized business in Texas.
I've heard.
That if we want to open it up, we can open it up. If not, we don't open it up, right? You say it's because he got 0% chance from CPAC running again, and that hurt his feelings, so he wanted to get relevant. Hey, here's what we're doing. And all of a sudden, media, he gets a few 100,000 likes on Twitter. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying yes, no, disagreeing. But how about the actual mandate? How about actually lifting it? What are your thoughts on lifting and putting it at 100% and getting people back to work?
Getting people back to work has
Saving
nothing.
small business owners that are not able to get the business that they were getting.
Now that's a red herring. Getting people back to work. Look at how you run your company. Individuals in their cubicles, they have their own mandates in terms of who can get close and who can't. So you run your business responsibly. Every business can be open. Opening bars at 100% is asinine. It just is. You're assuming people are going to be responsible, and they won't be. Look, there's a reason that life expectancy in Asia is longer than it is here in the United States. There's a reason that we didn't have a flu season in the United States. We were all protected from one another. So there's something to be said for not getting sick. There just is. Look, but again, it should be up to the business owner, but you need to have a responsible governor. You just do.
But I'm sorry, Danielle, I'm confused. So you are saying leave it to the small business owner to decide whether you wear
in
mask.
public places, though,
Sure.
wear the mask.
Okay. You're saying, but in public places, he should say you should wear a mask in public places.
In public places.
Such as when I'm out, when I'm running, when I'm walking.
No,
when
of course not. Then you're Newsom. Then you're like, no outdoor dining. What an idiot. No.
Okay, so you're not Newsom, you're not Abbott. What are you?
I'm in between.
You're in
I'm
between
trying
the two.
to ensure
Okay.
that people are as responsible as they should be.
Did you enjoy dinner last night at Louis Boss's?
I did.
How was it?
It was great.
Where were you sitting at when you ate?
The bar.
How many people were at the bar?
Tons.
Tons. Why did you do that?
But we were not all over each other.
Well, people are not all over each other in Texas. They have a little bit more etiquette. They'll say, hey, I'm sorry.
Wait. People in Texas have more etiquette?
I think more than Florida. I like
Not Boca
Florida.
Raton.
No, Florida, they're very, listen, here, this is like people who are like, do you know who I am? The etiquette here is, do you know who I am? The etiquette in Texas is a little bit different. There's a lot of New Yorkers here. So your customer service in Florida is
I've
not
noticed.
Texas customer service.
That's true.
But you enjoyed yourself last night.
I did, but I think that there's a certain amount of comfort that you get in knowing that other people have masks on.
Did you send a tweet thanking DeSantis? Did you say, Governor DeSantis, thank you for allowing me to eat at Louis Bossi's and enjoy this Italian food and the glass
He
of
is
wine?
so my favorite person.
But here's, okay.
DeSantis.
So how do you feel about DeSantis?
Hashtag sarcasm. Hello.
All right, I'm picking it
How
up.
do you feel about, now DeSantis on the other end, Abbott got 0%, but DeSantis on the other end.
Oh, huge.
Okay. So
Mr. CPAC.
Yes. So he is a star in a making that actually has potentially what it takes to be your president. Maybe mine, maybe his, but he could be our president, right? What are your thoughts about DeSantis? I'm actually curious to know what you're going to say about DeSantis.
So,
Here we go.
in the Florida Panhandle over the summer, when I came here with my family to vacation, as I do every year, I got away from Destin and the more crowded Rosemary's. I took a step further beyond that, and I only went into Walmart's because
Sounds like my kind of party.
they mandated masks when he wouldn't in the middle of a wave of COVID. And making teachers go back into the classroom when they should have maybe stayed out for 7 days, which he amazingly did, it's just
You say that's irresponsible, right?
totally.
Qualified irresponsible.
But he doesn't care.
Okay.
You have a certain appeal. If you appeal to the rebel, to the Trump, there's a Trump in a lot of people. if you appeal to that person, you're going to make all kinds of brownie points.
What does
You're
that
going to be
mean?
really popular at CPAC.
Oh, I don't think that's it, though. I don't think it's just that. I'm talking pure results is what I'm talking about. So
The unemployment rate in the state of Florida is not any better or worse than it is in the United States.
yeah, but it's way better than New York and California. So,
Of course.
so go to the people that were ridiculously
Control
control freak, et cetera, and what they did.
They're
But-
un-American.
But here's my argument for DeSantis. Here's my argument for DeSantis and my argument for Abbott. Okay. You know the story about Disneyland, Disney World. This is not a new story. So Disneyland, you know, they weren't working with Bob Iger, same company, two companies, and Bob Iger's a Democrat, and Newsom wasn't working with him. You know, eventually he's like, dude, I'm not even
going
working
to
with you on
Disney
this.
on Easter.
Yeah, so
back here.
Disneyland shuts
do
down.
it.
25,000 employees lose their jobs. Disney World's good to go. They keep their jobs. So people are able to go feed their families, get the food, pay the rent, all that other stuff. Same CEO Iger, two separate governors, Newsom, DeSantis. DeSantis helps Disney stay in business and the employees keep their job. Newsom fires 25, I think maybe the number is even 78,000 people. I don't know the exact
It was a
number.
big
but
number.
It was a big number that lost their jobs, right? Okay. So let's talk about a sport that would be qualified as the most liberal supporting sport in America. Which one would you say that is? Take the four sports.
Basketball.
I think it's fair to say NHL. We don't even know what NHL would be, but NHL is women's sport. Okay, they have more female fans than any other sport. NHL does.
NHL.
By far. It's not even funny.
We like to watch men beat each other.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so there you go. So what sport is the sport that supports BLM, liberal, and
The
philosophy?
social justice campaign of the NBA
Which is
was
who?
clearly
The NBA.
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the
absolutely.
NBA, who would fully disagree with DeSantis because of his irresponsible actions,
Is here.
decided to do their playoffs in Florida.
Yeah.
The Super
bubble in
Bowl
Orlando.
decided to do their Super Bowl in Florida. DeSantis is trying to get Olympics to be in Florida. Why are people from New York, nearly $1 trillion of wealth, say over $500 billion of wealth, moving to the most irresponsible state, Florida? Why are so many Californians leaving to Governor Abbott's state? Why? If you sit there and you look at it from my perspective, the way I see it, he says, responsible, make the decision, small business owners, do what you need to do. Responsibilities
Right.
on you. Let's do the
I
right
have
things.
no problem with that.
Yeah. But I also think, to lift what he did in Texas and what DeSantis did in Florida, I think these guys came out being heroes. Look what happened in New York. Every single day we watch Cuomo. Every day we were watching Cuomo. And you know how I feel about Cuomo. I've said this
A
multiple
year ago,
times.
you were a huge fan.
But wait a minute. I've never said I'm not. What I'm trying, even till today, I think the guys, the two brothers, to me, there's an element of it that I see family. I see how their Thanksgiving would be. I'm
How
attracted
they
to that.
interact, they joke.
Forget politics. I'm simply talking about
They're Italians.
they're Italians. It's like, hey, what's up? And their dad, Mario. You just kind of feel that you'd want to be at their house at Thanksgiving. If you're a friend, you're like, hey, Cuomo, I'm coming over. Okay, cool. Come on over. Family's waiting for you.
Unless you're a young woman.
Unless you're a young woman. Yeah, unless you're a young woman. Okay. So again, it started off, Cuomo was a hero. He's going to be the next president. Newsom's a hero. Oh, he's so responsible to be the next president. One guy's about to be recalled, and the other guy's about to be impeached. And DeSantis and Abbott look like rock stars. So COVID kind of made Abbott and DeSantis look like rock stars. And the two other governors, I don't know about that. So
And the irony is that if you look at the per capita death rate in these states, they're all kind of on top of each other. So for all of the overbearing regulations that were imposed in California, it didn't save the lives.
So
That's
what
just
does
that's
that
just
tell
math.
us, though? What
That's
does
just
that
math. That you can go too far. That's what I'm saying. I don't mind a mask mandate in public areas, but let business owners do whatever they need to do to be in business.
Well, I'm glad I lived in Texas for 5 years. I'm glad I moved my headquarters from California to Texas, and I'm glad I'm in the state of Florida. I cannot tell you how safe I feel as a business owner, as a small business owner, entrepreneur. I am glad I'm in these two states because I have offices all over California. I'm all over Northeast. I'm all over DMV.
But you can over deregulate
That's what's been happening with those two states.
Because guess who was in Austin during Ice-Mageddon? Musk himself. He was none too impressed.
Yeah.
So you can go too far on either end of the spectrum. 2011,
Sure.
there was the
I
Super
don't
Bowl,
disagree.
there was ice everywhere, the
I don't
power
disagree.
grid failed. The power grid, ERCOT in Texas said, we're going to fix it. 2014, failed again. We're really going to fix it this time. We're going to take those suggestions to weatherize our power plants. A few years later, 2021, people die. And it's a third world experience. So you can go too far in terms of not having regulations.
I don't disagree. It was very disappointing. All I said is, how's a state this big wasn't prepared for the storm that they had, right? How's that even possible? But at the same time, Danielle, if we flip it, how does a state like California every flipping year lose people to fire? And it's not a one-time thing. At least Texas, this is the worst they've ever had in 100 years. How does Texas, California, every year you got the fire? You can't figure it out?
They wrote the book on how to not run your power grid. California did. Texas at least had an example to follow.
Yeah.
The mudslides, the fires. I mean, it's just, you have to want to be there really badly, because you get the weather from Florida, but you get the taxes from California. Who would do that?
To be where?
Who would live in California with those taxes?
Quite a lot of people. Third largest economy. It's fifth largest economy.
Fifth largest economy in the world. I get it. And I'm out there once a year, but who would pay those taxes? I just don't get it. When you can live, and so many companies are agreeing.
Yeah.
And that's why on my Twitter feed, all the Californians, when Texas was freezing, there was just, the word is schadenfreude. They were so excited that there were people suffering in Texas. And I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, of course.
They were nasty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're supposed to be, people from the happy state. What
It's
are you
unfortunate.
doing?
That's not America, though. But that is a lot of voters on both sides. There's a lot of voters on both sides that
That's why they call it the left coast.
Yeah.
Well, just a quick point on, why would you live in California? I'll give a case example. We would hear for years and years and years, New Yorkers are considering coming to Florida. And, every New Year's, the New Yorkers are here. Why would you live in New York? Why would you live in New York? Well, the taxes and the weather. But it took a freaking pandemic and Zoom and being able to work from remote for people to say, you know what?
People were leaving New York before COVID.
Yeah, but not in droves like this.
No, not in droves.
And that's my point with California, is now with Zoom and WFH, work from home and work from anywhere, now you have that luxury, whereas maybe
JP
before
Morgan
you didn't have
just
that luxury.
put up for lease 800,000 square feet of office property. JP Morgan's going to have a bigger footprint, employee-wise, in Texas than it's going to have in New York. 800,000 square feet of office space in New York.
Pat wants to see states like New York and California be completely flipped on its head. Do you not?
You need a young Rudy Giuliani. You just do.
A young hot Rudy.
You're so funny.
Okay, he was never hot. We just said that he was good looking. I mean,
Bro,
don't go too far
he's
here.
a 7 or 8. That's all I said.
Yeah.
He's a 7 or 8.
7 or an 8. It's like a 5.5.
Stop. What would you say you are? What are you, Adam?
7 or 8.
No, you're not 7 or 8. I put you as an 8.5, but you're not. I put you.
Damn, can't even get a 9 for Pat.
No, it's
I don't know. I don't like the grading system.
Come on.
I'm more.
He's not happy
He's
with
a
it.
nine.
He wants a 9. He wants a 9.
Kidding. I'm more obsessed with Rudy Giuliani that people think we're joking that
he's gonna think about 8.5.
No,
is what he's gonna
people would think that I'm the one who thought that Rudy Giuliani was hot. We had an
You're a
argument.
nine with glasses.
We had an
Del
argument.
Rey
You
thought
were
Adam was a
vouching.
10 last
You were vouching for
he
Rudy
was.
Giuliani. I thought that he's
Adam's,
kind of gross.
One of the best looking guys I know. How about that? One of the best looking guys I know,
Thanks,
Adam.
bro. If I'm one of the best looking guys in this room,
I
I'm
know a
doing
lot of
okay.
good looking guys. You're one of the best looking guys I know. So.
Thanks, bro.
Okay, so let's continue. By the way, so we talked about Texas. They did what they did. Target, Toyota, GM, and Macy's in Texas keep wearing masks, which is fine. Do your thing. Employees at GM, Toyota, and company in Texas will keep their masks on. The company said on Tuesday, even as the state lifted. Okay, good. Abbott's executive order lifted. Okay, got it. We know that. Relaxing common sense safety protocols like wearing masks is a mistake. Jason Brewer, Vice President of Communication at State Affairs of Retail Industry Leaders Association, said, adding that going back on safety measures will unfairly put retail employees back in a role of enforcing guidelines still recommended by the CDC. Okay. There was 35 other states. Puerto Rico, as of Monday, 35 U.S. states will, along with District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, mandate the residents wear masks in public. Iowa, Mississippi, Montana, North Dakota. have lifted mask orders earlier as well. So, you know, you're looking at this. What are the other 11 states that have done it? Montana, Iowa, North Dakota, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina.
Georgia was never even had a mask mandate.
Yeah, they've never mandated a mask mandate. So, again, I mean, we'll see what's going to happen. The reality of it is every time these types of decisions are made, all the, you know, one lady came out and she said, I just want you to know this is a very irresponsible decision. I'm a Texan. I will never go anywhere without wearing a mask. Matter of fact, I'm double masking right now when I go out. I said, great, do it.
That's her business.
She said, I hope they don't force me to take my mask off. I said, no one's going to force you to take masks off. What are you talking about? I said, for how many decades have you gone to the airport and you see folks flying from Asia
with their masks on?
And I would always say, why do they put their masks on? Like, what happens in Asia? You know,
why do they have a longer life expectancy?
Yeah,
Hello?
so yeah, you think it's because of the mask versus the food they eat and how calm and peaceful they are. And
they
Mediterranean diet.
But they also don't have a flu
Monaco.
season like we do. I mean, they believe that germs are not for sharing. So, but it's just a way of life.
I don't know. I think.
But look at what their economies have done in a COVID world. So many of their economies have not been hit hard.
Well, China is the only country.
I'm not talking about China.
I'm just saying China is the only country in the world to have a positive GDP for 2020. Only country in the world.
Actually,
what a deceptive thing.
That was actually fake math. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to trust China? That's what you're saying? We can't trust you?
Well, you do. I know you get your data from China.
I only get it from
CNN,
the CCP.
China News Network is where. I'm sorry. Like
they went back into 2019 and revised economic data in order to mathematically fabricate a positive GDP.
So no country had a positive GDP.
No.
So even China.
But countries like South Korea, there were a lot of countries that did a lot better.
True. But why would China, walk me through, China's mentality here? Why would they want to be known as the only country to have a positive GDP?
Because they
wouldn't that put more of a target on their back from you caused this and you're succeeding through all this and the rest of us are melting away?
You think they care?
Well, obviously not. All right, walk me through the logic there.
I just got the CCP off my damn Twitter feed. Just need to be quiet now.
They
finally went away.
They were what?
They created all these impersonators on Twitter accounts.
China's monitoring you. Damn.
Look, they have their eye on the prize. They have their eye on Patrick's 2025. They do. And we're focused on the midterm elections right now.
By the way, the one thing about China you got to respect, man. They are so united at the top. Like, when do you hear now, obviously, it's communism and it's force. And choice. I totally get it.
Yeah, but Xi Jinping was a quiet bureaucrat before he rose up and became stronger than Mao.
Yeah, so you have to think about in U.S. like the as much as what the Constitution was written. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. It also reveals too many of who's against who. All you have to do is watch the news for like a couple of days. Like, okay, he hates him, she hates her. They're on the same page. It looks like they're on the same team. Okay, good. Here's how we're going to negotiate. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's so easy to go up against U.S. because hey, well, you know what Trump said about you the other day when we were talking. I just want to make sure that you know that we have your back. And you don't think these types of things are being played on the behind the... Like, have you ever had anybody that tried to manipulate in negotiation and you're kind of sitting there, you're like, wow, you are so freaking good. You would probably get a lot of other people the way you just did. Patrick, let's just face it. You're 10 times better than... Bobby. And I know Bobby's your boss, and I know this, but let's face it, without you, he's a nobody. And you know, they're like, wow, you are so deceptive, buddy. Wow. You're just sitting there listening to the language. Adam, if I was your girlfriend, you don't, like, a girl says that to you, you're like in likes you're like, oh, you would? Oh, really? You would treat me better? Okay, that's great.
You're done.
You're done. We're going. So, we're just giving our dirty laundry to the world and saying, hey, use this against us. Come on down. And it's making it so easy sometimes.
But that's not new, right? We've been doing that for 200-something years.
Not 200-something years. Not 200-something years, because 200-something years ago, media wasn't the way it is today.
Fair enough.
So
social media,
no
at least.
way. So when they came out with what they came about back in the days, you didn't say something. 2 seconds later, China already knows what you said. Mm-hmm. You said something. It may take 2 months until they find out what you just said. Okay, so the speed of being able to retaliate wasn't that quick when they wrote the Constitution. Today, I say something right now. China could have somebody watching us to make sure we don't say anything bad about China. They have one job. Monitor these podcasts to see what they're saying, specifically these guys. Because she said stuff about China, he said stuff about China, he said stuff about China. We don't know this stuff on what they're doing. So easy for them to do it today versus what it was 200 years ago. So anyways.
And they do it with no fear. Remember, the international court system came out when Barack Obama was in office and said China is violating international law with building out the South China Sea. And
they're still doing it.
And they're still doing it because the United States looked the other way.
So,
and now we have his protege.
Bottom line,
80 years old.
We've been talking
running
about
the country.
China doing all, stealing intellectual property, breaking international law.
For a generation.
For a generation. WTF? Like, when are we, is there going to be a hot war? Is there a cold war? Is it a trade war? Like, what in the F is actually going to happen? Or are we just going to talk about it and talk about it and talk about it?
Like, the Bitcoiners will tell you that Bitcoin's going to take over. But that means that the past 400 years of history is gone. History. Because in the past 400 years, if you're going to lose the reserve currency status, which means you rule the world, there's been a hot war involved. And that's just history. There has been a hot war. And who is building up their military for the first time since World War II? Germany. And who is now more reliant on China for their economic growth than they used to be from the United States? Germany. So China's an interesting thing because if you look where they're investing money, in 2016, they put more money into the United States than they did into Europe. And then Trump won, and they quit putting money into the United States, and they started putting money into Europe. And if you think about world history and building alliances and world wars and hot wars, you cannot have a hot war unless you have an alliance. And that's what China's building, very proactively.
Who's on China's team? We know that they're pumping money into Iran as an example, and they're pumping money into certain countries into Africa for sure. But who's like, I'm with China, no doubt. What's up?
Look at South America and all of the copper, soybean. Look at the exports. Look at who has pumped up that entire subcontinent's economy in the last generation.
So
they have built out the infrastructure and energy in Africa.
But I'm talking the big countries of the world.
Did I mention Germany?
Okay, so Germany's on Team China, not Team United States, is what you're saying? They're not on Team EU?
It remains to be seen.
We all know what happens when frickin' Germany gets a frickin' army on its side. But
again, Germany is building up its military for the first time.
But you're saying allies. You're saying allies. The United States
allies.
knows that we have Canada up here. We've got, obviously pretty much every country in the EU. We've got Australia. We've got certain countries all over the world that have our back, no matter what. I mean, we've got differences, what have you. What can you say about China? Is Russia have China's back? Iran?
Of course.
Okay.
Those two are there. Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia is on whose side?
China.
China?
We're on our way to being independent energy-wise. So we don't rely on the OPEC nations as we once did it.
Where's this going to culminate, I guess, is my point, is that we talk about it. China's doing this, China's doing that. So they're going to take us over 2025.
We started talking about $1.9 trillion that's not going towards job creation.
We're still on the first topic, by the way.
We're back to Bitcoin.
$1.9 trillion. Okay.
Do
you have any other follow-ups on
China
this?
is enemy number one, clearly.
There's no question about it.
Yeah, it's not even close. And
well, first of all, enemy number one is internal, is within U.S. It's a mindset. But I think outside of that, it's China. I don't think enemy number one.
You just touched on a great point.
I think you just said it the right way.
Yeah.
The United States is its own worst enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is unfortunately, I've lived in other countries, and I had the benefit of living in 3 different states in America. And when I also lived in Kentucky and Tennessee, but I'm talking I lived in 3 different states as a business executive, right?
You lived in Kentucky?
I lived in Kentucky and Tennessee.
When he was in the Army.
Yeah, when I was in the Army.
Okay.
I lived in Kentucky, South Carolina, and Tennessee for 2.5, 3 years. And I lived in Iran, I lived in Germany, so you have an experience, and politically on one side, mom's side, one side, that side, one side. America is cracks me up when some Americans who have what they have, they keep taking shots at America. It's very, very weird for me when I see it. Very weird for me. So I do think number one enemy is America itself. Then I think it's
How
China.
do we heal that, though? Like within ourselves? Like before we start fighting with China, how are we going to heal that internally?
I don't think you're going to be able to. Let me explain to you why. Because if the only so who stokes it? Think about who gets who fires us up? Who divides us? Who pins us against each other? For as long as there's a business model for that, this is not going away.
You're saying the media?
Yeah. For as long as there's a business model for media, this is not going away. They're not making money right now. Okay, the CNN, Foxes are not making money right now. You're not watching CNN, Fox as much as you used to a year ago. You're not watching it right now.
Without the Trump shit show.
Well, because Biden is not doing any press conferences. Biden's been instructed by his team to not get on TV and talk. Biden's not saying anything that's, oh my God, did you hear what he said? He's making
only for 4 years
the life of the media a living hell. Nothing. They don't have a job right now.
There is still more coverage of Donald Trump than there is of Biden today.
Of course.
In the media, in the major media.
That's what media needs. Media needs an enemy. Unfortunately, the enemy is America. So the media's enemy is part of their team. So for example, let's talk about Cuomo, right? Let's talk about Cuomo real quick, what happened to Andrew Cuomo. This whole sexual harassment thing that took place, and another person came out, Charlotte Bennett came out, 25-year former aide, and then you see the picture with him on the hands on the face. And,
this is an inside job.
Okay, and all these other things. And you're saying, okay, age doesn't matter. He told her, as he asked her about her feelings about age differences, relationship conversation, she told a friend about texting her. He's fine with anyone above the age of 21. She said he told her, okay, and all this stuff. And Cuomo told her a lovely relationship. Celebrity Sandra Lee, his girlfriend for 14 years, ended in 2019. And then his brother gets heat, right? Hey, Chris Cuomo criticized for hypocrisy after he said he won't cover brothers' controversies. CNN, Chris Cuomo widely criticized. Before we start tonight, let me say something that I'm sure is very obvious. Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother. And obviously, I cannot cover it because he is my brother, right? He is my brother.
That there's a natural conflict.
There's a natural conflict there. So first of all, what are your thoughts about what's going on with Andrew Cuomo? And then we'll talk about his brother. And then this all comes back to me with what I was talking about with America is undermining their own American, like their own allies internally versus China. The point will get there, but what are your thoughts about what happened with Andrew Cuomo?
This smells like an inside job to me. This smells like it's coming from within the Democratic Party.
Why though?
It's too orchestrated. It's too organized.
Yeah.
Everything is so scripted. You're like, they've been waiting for their moment. They have. And I don't know what the Democrats have against this guy, but this was not something from outside the Democratic Party.
What makes you even instinctively go there, right? Like, why?
Because the Democrats are coming out against him. They're the ones calling for him to be
to
so step down.
Let's go with that. Like, why are they even thinking, all right, we got to take this man down? Is it because all the deaths at the nursing home? Is it because
the nursing home scandal is definitely because, again, he presented himself as the perennial governor. I'm doing everything right. I'm going to write a book about it. It's all about me, 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 me. And then you have this scandal erupt. And you've got the second highest per capita death rate in the country after New Jersey. It doesn't look good.
So you think these are the Dems within the New York
government?
Yes. With all the Dems?
Yes, absolutely.
The de Blasios of the world, or even the state government,
de Blasio
the mayors?
cannot stand.
So they got internal strife.
That's public hatred between those two.
But why though? Why? So why are they? I do agree it's an inside job, but why are they coming after this guy?
Wow.
He's a candidate. He could be a face. He could be a marketable guy. Why are you going after Cuomo? Is it because, the Democrats, there's two Democrats right now. You got the AOC Bernie Sanders side of the Democrats, and then you have the Democrats that Biden, all the rest of the folks.
mansions.
Yeah. So
My people.
Yeah. So which group is going out? Because they asked Nancy Pelosi, yes, they have to go out there and investigate it. They asked irresponsible. They asked the Mayor de Blasio, yes, that. I mean, it's like everybody is throwing him under the bus. Yep. Whether it's the Biden side, the Biden camp, or the other side, they're all throwing him under the bus. Why is that?
They didn't like his rise to power. They didn't like his hogging the spotlight. I mean, I can't say. I don't know. But it is definitely an inside job.
And by the way, the things that came up about him, did you think anything was severe? Like, do you think anything was out of control?
Look here. Oh, God. I can just hear my Twitter feed. There's nothing illegal about being a dirty old man.
There's nothing illegal about being a dirty old man. Okay.
He didn't. There wasn't. From what we've heard thus far, there are no allegations that wander into physicality. Right. Did you hear his press conference yesterday? Did you hear him crying yesterday or no? crying? I was on an airplane. No.
Did you see him crying
I
yesterday?
did not, no.
Okay, so he apologized. Did you guys see it or no?
He cried?
He cried on national television.
Can we pull that up, Guy?
Well, we can't do it because they're not gonna let us play the video because
Really?
they're gonna flag it. So he
But
cried.
Italian men cry. It happens.
Yeah, but he was crying. He was literally crying, saying,
Say it ain't so,
he says,
Fredo.
at first, it didn't seem, but I have to tell you, I have come to a conclusion, this was not okay. What I did was not okay. And, and yes, I am going to change my approach. And I shouldn't have done this. And he's crying while he's saying this. I can't see Cuomo crying while he's saying
look,
this.
Wow.
if you're the father of a daughter, would you want somebody talking to your daughter like that? No, you wouldn't. But it's not a crime. But Italian men, they feel guilt. They get all emotional. Trust me, my Uncle Philip can cry on a dime.
Yeah, but you know how I process that? Here's how I got a daughter, and she looks like a kukla. In Armenian means like a doll. She looks like her mom. Can I really prevent somebody flirting with her? I don't know. Can your husband prevent you sitting on a flight with another guy, on a flight flirting? I don't know. Can folks how many rich billionaires do you know in their 60s that are dating 25-year-olds? I mean, how many? Here it's very normal. Just so you know, it's very, very normal here.
I've actually noticed.
Okay, yeah, it's very normal here. So, I think that's on the daughter. I think that's on the conversations with the daughter but I'm not going to be telling her, oh, no 55-year-old's ever going to flirt with you. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. If you go to a bar, it's just, for me, it's like, I sit there and I say, I swear to God, if somebody breaks my daughter's heart, I'm going to kill this guy, right? What am I going to do? Someone is going to probably end up doing this.
That's
If somebody-
irrational.
yeah, it's irrational. If somebody beats up my sons, we're going to go out there, I'm going to meet their parents. It's going to happen, right? So
It's happened for all of
yeah,
mankind.
the challenge is, the other day Bill Maher did a skit. I sent it to you. I don't know if you watch it
Yeah,
or
of
not.
course.
He talked about cancel culture, and
yeah.
he said, are we really going to do this? By the way, I wish I could play it for you so we can watch it together. We cannot. Everybody needs to watch Bill Maher's cancel. If you send me, matter of fact,
6 minute skit.
It's 6 minutes, but you gotta watch it. It's on his Instagram account. Save it. Why don't you put the link somewhere in the comment section later on once the podcast's over for people to see it? He came from an angle like, what are we gonna do? Every single time something comes out from 50 years, Dr. Seuss is being canceled. He's been dead. People are being now. So originally it was Hearts being canceled, comedians being canceled, actors being canceled, businessmen being canceled, and now dead people are being canceled. So what are you going to do? Future babies that are going to be born being canceled? Like, what are we going to next?
At my kids' elementary school, they had Dr. Seuss Week, and all the dads would sign up online, and they would pick a Dr. Seuss book to go read to the kids. I mean, seriously?
I have a random question. This is I was going to ask this before podcast, but I'm going to ask you guys. Have you ever met anybody in your lifetime that wasn't racist?
That wasn't?
Wasn't.
That's a loaded question. I think everyone has some sort of predisposition to,
What is racism?
Right. Like,
What is racism?
okay, listen, there's, that person's a freaking racist, blatant racist. Or there's people who are, I think the word you're looking for is prejudice. Like, you have sort of
they throw
a predisposition
they throw around
to
the word racist pretty. So put them together in the same family. Prejudice, racist, stereotype. Just put them all in the same
stereotypes, that whole
Yeah,
thing.
but there's a difference between, okay, so you grew up Italian on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, you grew up with Polish jokes. You just do. Do you really hate Polarks? No, you don't. But there's a difference between racism and bigotry.
But okay, who's not a bigot? Who's not a bigot?
A lot of people.
Oh, let me ask you a question. Do you think the same folks that are, talking about what's going on with BLM, you don't think they're? I was in the military. I've worked in regular jobs, and I cannot tell you how many. I grew up not liking white people because everybody that was in my community saw white people as the rich people that have all the money, and we work for them. You grew up, you're like these.
That still exists.
I understand that. What I'm saying to you is, so for me, I went to get my first job at Bally's. I walk in, had a beard at the time, and I was pretty big guy at that time. So I walk in, and I may not look like the friendliest guy. So here, the guy that hires me later on says, I got to tell you, I didn't like you at first. I thought you were this cocky, arrogant Middle Eastern guy that came in here and all this stuff, and I was worried about having you being here. I said, that's a form of, bigotry. That is a form of,
prejudice.
That's
that is a form of
stereotyping.
prejudice.
Stereotyping. Okay.
It's All Middle Easterns are
Judging a book by its cover.
All
to
Middle
use a Dr.
Easterns
Seuss
are
analogy.
All
I remember-
men are. All women are. All whites are. All.
I mean, 9/11. After there were all these people, taxi cab drivers, getting beaten because they put everybody was in the same Middle Eastern
crossing
boat.
the line is that. That's crossing the line.
Exactly.
I think targeting is crossing the line.
Yes.
I think that is problematic.
Well, there's
But just because somebody,
there's a difference
people
between
should have the right to not like you. People should have the right to say, you know what, I just don't like your style. People should have the right to say, here's my. They should have the right to.
Well, I think there's a difference between thoughts, between words, and between actions. So everyone has thoughts. Like, if I'm at an ATM, anyone who walks behind me, I'm like, who's this motherfucker? Like, could be a 5-foot woman. I'm like, well, or your thoughts.
Yeah.
But then taking it to a different level, all right, words. What are the jokes? What are the things you're saying? What are the comments you're making?
And again,
that's a whole different level.
but
That's
that-
like, all right, you've taken your thoughts and now you vocalized them. I don't know about that. And now when you took it into action, you start beating people up because they look
But
a
Patrick,
different way.
what
or
you're talking about is
physical
real.
abuse. That's a totally different
The
level.
murder rate in the United States is going through the roof.
Why though?
They have done extensive studies, and they have found that when there is a lack of confidence in the political leadership of a country.
Come on, guys.
Now, I'm sorry, but it's true.
Oh, come on,
The
guys.
murder rate goes up.
Oh my gosh.
But is that a study? What is that?
It is.
Okay.
I can send you all the
Guys,
link.
But
You're saying that you don't believe that?
No, it's not. Oh my gosh, guys. What I'm trying to say, America may be the most inclusive
Melting pot.
Are you kidding me? Like, you turn on the TV, it's like, whoa, all these people are bad people. They're after you because you're this skin color and all this. No way. This is probably the greatest country in the world as far as being inclusive where we cannot. Now, don't get me wrong. You go to Alabama. I remember I went to Alabama, and I went to Waffle House. Guy comes out, and a guy comes out. He says, "Hey, boy." I'm like, Patrick. Hey, boy.
Hey, boy.
Hey, where you from, boy? I said, I'm from Iran. Now, what the fuck are you doing here from Iran? I said, I'm in your military. What do you mean? I'm in the U.S. Army at the 101st. Make sure you're free. I'm protecting you.
Yeah. What do you say to that?
Well.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. I'm like, all right, now let me get a
All right
pancake.
there, House.
So the point is, listen, I love America. I served America, but I also understand it's okay that some people are not going to like me. I don't wake up in the morning saying, oh my gosh, you don't like me. When I started in the insurance company, I had a negotiation with a guy said, we're going to drop your contract because another 3 Armenian insurance companies ripped them off, took $1 million check away from them, and they thought I was going to do the same thing because I'm Armenian. I'm okay with that because I'm going to change that. I'm going to give you my example. So for example, if I were to right now bring 10 girls, different nationalities, to introduce them to you, friends of mine.
Are we still looking for a wife for Adam?
Well, by the way,
We're still on the search.
I think,
Okay.
by the way, it wasn't 8.5. I'm at 8.8 right now. Just so you know, I'm at 8.8 right now.
Something I did.
Things have changed. in the last-
Fresca, I don't know.
It's still
Damn.
But you can
Yeah,
round
the
that
coffee
up.
just-
You
okay.
can round it up to 9.
That's a 9, ladies.
the point.
Damn.
Give you a 9 earlier.
He's an almost 9.
The point. But by the way, with the mask, you're a 2. So this is why I don't want you to wear the mask. I wanted those perfect white teeth
Thank
that
you.
you have to be shown, right? So the point I'm trying to make to you is, I am so okay if you think I'm such and such because I'm from Iran. Great, let me earn the right. I'll earn the respect. I don't take it as, but that's not fair. No, I'm good. I'll go earn the right. I'll go earn the right, and I'll earn the respect. I'm totally fine with that. But
That's also the American way.
yeah, but today, people are walking like this. People are walking like this with a muzzle on their mouth and a handcuff and shackle because you're afraid to tell certain jokes. Like a part of me wants to become a comedian just to freaking be free because you're a comedian. It's like, let me just tell some jokes.
Wow,
you can't even talk nowadays.
I didn't get the memo. Apparently, I'm still not politically correct because I don't have a governor on my mouth.
Well, no, but you do. But Danielle, you do because Danielle, and I'm not gonna go there, but you don't talk about 100% of things you believe in. You talk about 98% of beliefs. You still have 2% that you, and I think you need to. I'm not judging that. So I'm not saying, oh, go out there and say everything you believe in. If we did that, freaking people would be like, these guys belong in jail, because if you really thought about some of this stuff publicly, it's good to keep some of it to yourself, right? I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine to have that. But all I'm saying is, if that 98% is getting pushed to 95 to 90 to 80 to 70 to, that's where we're going today. Where comedians can't tell jokes. Are you kidding me? I want you to go tell your jokes. Go. Comedians ought to be free to go tell their jokes.
The verb cancel it's not a nice verb.
So let me bring it back to Andrew Cuomo. Okay, he said yes. He says, but I can tell you one thing. I didn't touch anybody. Like, meaning he didn't. Obviously, he touched the face of the girl. He didn't, grope or anything like. He didn't use the word grope. That's what he's trying to say. Okay. Where does flirting go? He's a single guy. He's not married. He's flirting. Okay. Where does that go? You can't flirt? Is it like, are we at that? So what does flirting become? Is this flirting? Hi, I think you're pretty. Would you like to go have a drink with me? I mean, what?
It's a smooth line.
So what do you do? Like,
that was not compelling.
Yeah, that's not compelling. So what do you do? So you don't need a little bit of a tease or a little bit of a. I'm sorry. So then now you're destroying the ability for a guy to court you and flirt with you. So let's talk about Andrew Cuomo and let's go to Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, not saying anything about his brother. What do you think about it?
He has every right to be a good brother. That's family.
Well, I think it would be even uglier situation if he came out on CNN, the leftist media, and started defending his brother. I know my brother's a good man. He would never do this. I think he took the high road, said, look, it's my brother. It's probably inappropriate for me to start, telling the story here.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna take a pass on this
that
one.
Was 100% integrity.
Integrity. But it's also expected. Like, listen, I think that, the higher ups at CNN told me not to comment on this situation. There's moving parts of this.
Yeah, Ron Reagan, not Ronald Reagan.
The atheist,
the son. Yeah, I mean, you got the Conway daughter,
Kellyanne
George
Conway,
Kellyanne,
ugly
their
situation.
Daughter, situation, right?
Ugly. You're saying something about the family.
Let me
You're
tell
going family with
I
this.
have so much respect for the fabric of the Cuomo parents, how they raise their kids. Because I sat there and I said, say it's my two boys, Tico and Dylan, right? And something like this happens. Listen, I swear to God, if you throw your brother under the bus, you are not going to like what's going to happen here.
Family first.
You got to respect what is going on here. You do not go out there. Privately, guess what I want you to do? Go do whatever you want to tell him privately. Chew his ass out. Push him around. What were you thinking? Let's just say you're going to do that privately. Cool. Publicly,
family first.
I respect, I don't agree politically, but I respect the decision. See, that's the part with the family side on what they have. I actually respect what they're doing. I think the question now becomes, should he get, impeached? Should he go through that and,
Impeached?
Well, not impeached.
Cuomo?
Should Cuomo resign and step away?
You're asking him to step down.
Okay.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, let me give my 2 cents real
Yeah.
quick on this Cuomo situation. Interesting perspective about the inside job. I could see something like that. Maybe he's made some enemies, certainly with his rise to power and stardom over the last year. But, the nursing home thing isn't even they're not talking about that for some reason right now. Obviously, I think that's the main story. Like, even when we went to your office the other day, watch this video. What are your thoughts on it? I was like, the hot dog video. I was like expecting something so much worse. Or watch this video where he put his hand. I was expecting, oh, damn. Here it is. Here's the bomb. He's like, yeah, have a bite of a hot dog. Like, because she's eating a hot dog. Like, I was expecting something so much worse, something so much salacious that I was like, that's it? This is what this guy's...
But do you know why it's happening?
Tell me why.
Why do you think it's happening?
Why these stories are coming out?
No, why do you think they're asking? Why do you think we're in the movement of stepping down, resign, impeach? Why do you think we're in that movement?
You're back into the cancel culture.
You caused it.
Yeah.
You're the one that wanted to impeach Trump twice. You caused it. So guess what?
But that would be the Republicans kind of coming after him. This is more inside, though.
No. What I'm saying to you
yeah.
is we're officially in the era of you should resign. You should step down.
Yeah.
You should impeach him. We're in that era.
No.
It's normal now. You mean no?
No, we are, and I'm drawing a line saying it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but
No,
now
we
you're
are,
canceling
though.
the will of the people. You're canceling
Well,
voters.
unfortunately, once you do it once, kind of like what you said about AOC's filibuster, 2 years from now, it's going to backfire on you, and that's exactly what's happening. So guess what, Cuomo? You said he should be impeached. Hey, it's backfiring on you. You're now it's coming back on you. So you're getting a taste of your own medicine. So in 10 years ago, what do you mean resign? But today, you should resign based on what you thought Trump should do.
Yeah.
So you're getting a taste of your own medicine. I think a part of a part of the
You reap what you sow.
yeah, a part of this is, you know,
Well, there's two quick thoughts. Number one, what was acceptable 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago is not acceptable anymore. Like, I remember one of the first shows I ever watched was Archie Bunker. I used to have a black and white TV in like 1989. And Archie Bunker would say the most ridiculous stuff, and that was like the main TV show in America. No way Archie Bunker's on TV these days. Do you remember Archie
God,
Bunker?
yes.
All in the Family?
yeah.
Okay, so that was completely acceptable in the 70s or the 80s. 0% chance it's acceptable now. The Washington Redskins. I mean, we can go down the list here. The Washington Redskins and the
Dr.
Cleveland Indians and the
Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. But you can't cancel the past. And I was guilty of this even on one of the first podcasts when we were talking about they were taking down the Confederate statues. And emotionally, I was like, get those piece of shit traitors out of here. Cancel them all. Take down the statues. No. Relax. You can't just cancel history. You can put it in a museum, though. You can still, have it, in certain sections. You don't have to agree with it. You can just cancel history. So, and then you have people like extremists on the left who are trying to cancel Abraham Lincoln,
Oh, for God's sake.
which is like, to me, the dumbest thing on the
George
planet.
Washington's next. He's coming up. Don't worry.
To me, that's freaking absurd.
yeah,
So,
but whose fault is the whole cancel culture? So what's this whole cancel culture deal? How did
I don't
it
know
start?
how did it start?
How
cancel
are we
culture?
here? How is it that everybody keeps like, hey, you said this, you're canceled. Hey, you said this, you're canceled.
He just brought up the 2% I can't talk about.
Exactly.
Okay.
See?
Well-
So the level of sensitivity is at the highest it's ever been. We are so sensitive because we're all about feelings and we're all about how you feeling.
Right.
Oh my, did we offend you? Did we say something that upset?
Amen and all women.
Yeah, all of that. It's so like, did you hear about the thing yesterday with flag? That you can, in DC, you can't have a flag above certain size to hang outside your house, and they're saying, well, it's offensive to some people, so they're making
Yeah.
a flag sign.
Which flag?
U.S. flag.
Excuse me?
You didn't hear about this yesterday? Go search it. You're gonna crack up.
In America?
In America, and it's in court. They're talking, and the people are agreeing.
You can't have a certain
Size flag to hang
You-
outside because it's too much in people's face. Of the
Too much
American flag.
America?
Too much America.
Well,
I'm sorry, but
it's,
don't
it's,
they
it-
leave?
It started with this woke culture,
unfortunately, it's
and
No better
look, to
country
a
to
certain
find it
to a
here.
certain extent, there are some merits in it. Like if you're a Native American and you're looking at the Washington Redskins and you're like, yo, I'm like they're straight up like
okay, so
they're calling me a Redskin. Like that's like they had a team called like the Washington Brownskins, and it was a picture of an Iranian guy. You'd be like, I'm a little offended here, a little bit. Okay,
I
Maybe
am
not?
brown skin,
Okay, cool.
but I like it.
I'd like it too. You look, especially after Hawaii, you
I
were
like-
tan as
I
hell.
like
You
my
I'm
look
sorry.
brown skin.
Should I leave?
Yeah,
But
need a
I'm
room?
just all this hot rouge
bromance
going
here
on.
going on.
But you can't change the past, but you can learn from it. And I think cancel culture is a very slippery slope. I think Bill Maher had a great point that like everyone's cancelable these days because everyone has a social media profile. So everyone's, out there. So anything you do, anything you say is potentially cancelable. Cancel that guy. Write him off. Cut the show.
Can't
That's
do
it.
that. Yeah,
It's like at what point do you have just the freedom of expression or
brother,
freedom of
it's
thought?
gonna backfire like it's backfiring on Cuomo. You have to understand, if you go through it the way some are going through it, the backfiring is gonna come. You're gonna pay a price if you go that way. It's gonna come. You can't just go thinking you can bully everybody. People behind closed doors sit there and plan things that may take 20 to 30 years for it to become a reality. You don't want those types of people. They're giving birth to a lot of people that are going to be thinking what they're going to be doing 20, 30 years from now. And you're giving birth to a lot of true believers today by pissing them off, by taking their voice away. You don't take a voice away from somebody. It irritates them in a different way.
Not in this
It's a
country.
different freedom you take away. Well, they're kind of doing it right now, but let's talk about Brazil. Okay? Brazil oil industry shakeup could be devastating for its economy. Following the ousting of the CEO of Brazil's state-controlled oil groups by President Bolsonaro earlier this week.
Did I say that okay?
Earlier this week, experts fear what greater intervention might do to the country Following the change in leadership, stocks plummeted, losing 20% of their value Monday, around $13 billion. This also had a negative effect on Brazil's currency, which decreased in value by 2%. What are your thoughts on what's going on in Brazil?
So in 1964, the United States funded and financed a coup, and that military regime was around until 1985. It was almost 2 decades before they had an elected president. Bolsonaro happens to have been a member of the military regime back then. So it is a very slippery slope in a country that has been devastated by the virus to try and swing the pendulum back to another military regime. And that is why 4 members of the board of directors of Petrobras stepped down in protest when he instated a general who knows nothing about energy as its CEO. These are not the kind of things that you want to read. It's why they call emerging economies, emerging markets, emerging, because they don't do things that developed economies would. But Brazil is a big damn economy. It's the biggest economy in Latin America, and you don't want to see this happen at all. You don't want nationalism. You don't want these types of trends to start because they can be contagious from one country to another. We've seen this in the past. And again, we were talking about the economic reliance on China. So you start lining up the dominoes, and this is hopefully somebody in the CIA is wise to what's happening down there, because this is not the way we want for it to go. In 1964, the United States was financing the coup. Who knows who's behind what's happening now? But this is not a good direction.
64, was it JFK or was it Lyndon who funded the coup? Lyndon funded the coup.
And Kissinger came out, a few years afterwards, Kissinger came out and said, we know that they were killing off dissidents. It wasn't anything like Chile, where they killed a ton of people. But there were many, many dissidents, speaking of suppressing free speech. Bad things happen. And they tortured their own people. They killed their own people. They exiled. If you were exiled, you had that was a good verdict. But you don't want to see these developments.
So what's next? If this continues, what happens to Brazil? Who do they become? Are they like the next Venezuela, like Adam said yesterday?
That is a risk. You don't want to see that.
I know you have a soft spot for South America. You lived in Venezuela. You know, you got a great Spanish accent. I'd love to hear more Spanish on the show. We got some Colombians and Venezuelans and Mexicans in the house. Not that Mexicans, but Brazil's the powerhouse in South America, right? I mean, for sure, not even a question. And you know, being here in South Florida, we have an influx of Venezuelans.
Yes, you do.
Bananas. There's Brazilians here. Argentina's a mess. I guess just give me your economic synopsis on what's happening in South America, how that affects us here in America, because we have our own issues to freaking deal with. And last part of that is, how big on the shit show level is Brazil right now? Like,
well,
overall economics, South America.
This is kind of the first shot across the bow. So the person who used to run Petrobras, who was ousted, was a University of Chicago educated economist who believed in free markets. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the direction that South America was taking, looking at the example of Venezuela and saying, we don't want to go there. So this is not something that you want to see, but at the root is income inequality. And terrible income inequality.
In the favelas, it's insane in Brazil.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yes. And that is where a lot of the COVID deaths occurred.
Wow.
So we're seeing similar situations play out in Peru, Mexico, and in the United States. Income inequality is an economic phenomenon that will come back and kill capitalism.
So I know 3 things about this guy, Bolsonaro. And obviously we're learning more about him. I know number 1, they called him the Brazilian Trump. Mm-hmm. Right? He would refuse to wear a mask, mm-hmm. and then he got COVID. Mm-hmm. And then you see all these images of like burning the Amazon in Brazil and him sort of not giving an F of what's going on there. So he seems just completely
narcissistic.
Yeah, I don't know the word.
Self-centered.
Is that what's your take on this guy Bolsonaro?
I think that power corrupts absolutely. And we're seeing an example of that. But again, you have to remember his roots. His roots were in that military regime.
Gotcha.
That we do not want to see Brazil go back to, because you don't want to have economies that are susceptible to becoming future allies of China. And it all, I mean, I'm sorry, but all roads lead back to Beijing.
Wow.
And it's an economic matter. And you care who butters your bread. That's it.
So is China using the playbook that U.S. has used for decades, and now
Bingo.
they're doing
Ding,
it
ding, ding,
themselves?
ding,
So
ding,
they're
ding,
they're
ding.
they're internally funding coups, and they're taking over. I mean, you got that's an interesting
Meddling in
dynamic.
elections, you're
Ooh,
saying?
they are just, but they're saying, hey, we learned it from you. Thank you. You know, we learned it from you. You taught us how to do this, and we think it's a great strategy. We're just going to do it better than you because
During the Industrial Revolution in the United States, we trashed our environment in order to build out our companies, in order to build out our industrial sector. And what have they done? They've trashed their economy, and they've built out their industrial sector.
Trash their environment in China.
Environment. Sorry. Yes.
What is the current state of China and the environment and the smog and the smoke and the
why don't we
emissions
go
and
visit?
everything?
Why don't we go visit?
I'm not going to go.
Yeah, why don't we go for a week? We go, me, you.
And Rudy
Valuetainment
Giuliani, the
road
three of
trip.
us.
Yay!
Why don't we go visit? We take me, you, Mario, Sam, Paul, Kai.
And that's just a squad
And
who rolls out
mysteriously,
there.
we all disappear and
Yeah.
never come
Boom.
back.
What happened to Valuetainment? I have no idea.
Where'd VT go?
Value China, Value Chinomics, Chinomics, Value Chinomics. No, that wouldn't go, right? But we go visit. I think it's the best thing to do. We go find out how it is. I wonder what would happen if we went.
I actually
would
have
you
a-
feel safe? Would you feel safe going to China right now for a week?
To Macau?
Yeah, we go to Macau.
Hong
Fine.
Kong? I'd go to Hong Kong. Not that that's mainland China. I'd go to Hong Kong.
Have you
no
not watched the
question.
news lately?
Well, you know, it's becoming more mainland, but
Would you go to Macau? We go one week. We stay at the best hotel at Macau.
We'll go to the Wynn.
Would you go?
who's funding this trip?
I would fund the trip.
All right, I'm in.
Let's
Okay,
go.
that's all you needed. That's all you
Vale,
needed to hear.
Sam.
It's fine. I'm good. But would you go if I funded it? Would you go?
I mean, if you felt comfortable, if we felt comfortable, I'm not like I would never go there. I'm not against China or the people of China. I'm
what's
against
the best thing about
the
that
government.
flight is when you go in, you're macho. 23 hours, 22 hours, 21 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour's border, and then we're landing, and you're getting out.
Yeah.
And you look at Adam's face. Adam's got the mask on. He's got the
just-
Huawei
I-
hat on.
I just went from an eight
The
and a
Huawei
half
hat.
to
He's
a 3.
worried. It's like, oh my God, it should be classic.
I'd be Xanaxed out on a flight to China. I mean, any flight that long.
Hey, if you're watching this, if you had a chance right now, would you feel safe going to China today? Would you feel safe? Would you feel safe going to China today? You would, Kai.
I'd be careful.
You would be.
Yeah, but look at Kai. I mean, come on.
I'm Norwegian though. If I went there,
You
I'd
would be okay.
Kai is like prime for a kidnapping. Get this little kid over here. It's just like
is
I'm not even holding this guy ransom. Just get over here. Get in the car,
Poor
guy.
kid.
I don't know. Would you
All
guys
right.
go into to China?
Eric, would you go? I think you would go.
If
I
we could,
I could have been stationed there. I'm not a big fan of counterintelligence threat countries. So I don't like to be followed. I don't like to go to a hotel and know that there's cameras.
There you
which
go.
China, Russia, there's gonna
Yeah,
be
this guy
cameras.
lived in Russia for 4 years though.
So
Did you lived in Russia for 4 years?
no, 1 year.
1 year.
And there's counterintel. So if you go, so if you're talking in your room, you just have to know everybody's listening to
Yeah.
you.
We're getting
not a fan of that.
we're getting sprayed with nose.
Probably
No.
no.
It's
But
like a
then
hose.
Mustafa said yes.
Yeah.
Alex said yes. You got to see.
I wouldn't even
Mohammed Afshar
be
said
in a
yes.
Volvo. I mean, they're listening in your Volvo.
By the
I
way,
mean,
all
come on.
Middle Eastern
Yeah.
names said yes.
Well, not just Middle Easterners.
Whiskey Pete
our
said,
friend Michael
"Put me
says,
in."
as a black man, hell no. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Timo, yes for China, I would go. A bunch of other people are saying no.
Here's the question for you, PBD.
Yeah.
The founder of
Yeah.
Valuetainment from Iran speaks out against China. Country you're more likely to visit sooner, soon. Next country.
Iran or China?
China or Iran?
That's a good question. I would visit both. But
That's a deflective answer. What's
Yeah.
the country you will set foot in first? If you're betting man, roll the dice. Red for China, black for Iraq.
I couldn't tell you, but I don't know. Probably China over Iran. I don't know. Yeah,
Because it's more likely you would travel there. Like,
I would travel to both, but
what's more likely you wouldn't be seen again in those two countries?
That was the question.
Yeah.
You read my mind.
Well, not seen again. I think you would see me again in Iran, but they may keep me in Iran. Okay. China, you may never see me again. Yeah, I would play hide and go seek, and I'd win for 60 years. That's winning, guy.
You and Jack Ma hanging out.
Hashtag winning.
I would have a 6-day presentation. So let us tell you moving forward what you have to say about China. But can you imagine, like, you're in your suite in China, you're staying at a nice hotel in China, and you know you're being recorded, so you say, what a wonderful country China is. Don't they just have the greatest system in the world? I love how we were treated. The food, incredible. Incredible.
The best.
You know, so you're sitting there, you're building them up, and then you tease them. You tease them and confuse them a little bit. So what should we do with the petroleum that we brought here, you know, the nuclear, and you kind of tease them and they're listening to you, right? What should we do with it? Should we leave it? Let's leave it in this room.
I've got the uranium in the hotel safe.
Yeah, the uranium, let's leave it here before we leave.
Have you ever been to China, ever?
No, I have not.
And would you ever go?
Well, all 4 of my children take Mandarin, so I've always said that I'll go.
Take Mandarin.
Oh, well, if you can't beat them, join them.
Wow. Listen up.
They're not gonna invite them in, but at least you can understand them.
You want to teach your kids Mandarin?
My future
First, we
kids.
need to make him have kids.
Yes.
So we got to find him a woman.
There
so.
might be a kid that's speaking Spanish somewhere in Costa Rica. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. That had some fun there.
Okay, that was.
Okay.
What's that? What? You're the
Very
only person.
inappropriate.
You're the only person that's allowed to visit South America.
inappropriate.
Where did that come
You're
from?
the only
This
South
is going to
America.
come back and haunt you when you run for
question,
governor.
though, is he 20? Is he 10? That's where the confusion is.
Probably he would. He or she would be about 11 years old now. But who's counting?
Oh, so you were 30 when you were 29?
Right around 29,
Costa
30. Yeah.
Rica. Yeah.
Bachelor parties.
It is what
Fell
it
in
is.
love. Fell in love
For a week.
for a day.
There you go.
We're in
Okay.
love, though.
How about
What? Danielle, you're the only person allowed to visit South America? What's going on here?
Love with the stripper.
Right. So I'm buy you a drink. That's
Okay.
when that song was popping.
which one?
I'm gonna buy you a
Oh
drink.
yeah, with the
Ooh-wee. Do you know who
Okay.
T-Pain is?
I'm afraid I don't.
T-Pain?
Oh my, you and I both. Okay. So
Pat's
let's
favorite
let's do Tesla. Let's
Yes.
do. I do want to hit
Let's
the story
tie
with
this
Tesla.
in. Let's tie this in.
Tesla to launch full self-driving car subscription within 4 months. Elon Musk says that Tesla will launch it full service in the next 3 to 4 months. The automaker is set to launch the option for full self-driving package, which costs $10,000 at the purchase of a new Tesla vehicle. Here's what you get with the package: navigate on autopilot, auto lane change, auto park, summon, full self-driving computer, traffic light and stoplight control, stop sign control. Tesla also plans for the package to eventually lead to full self-driving capability, but the automaker has already missed a few timelines on that front, and even if it achieved it, the release will be dependent on regulatory approval, which is market specific.
Yeah. Okay. That package is missing the driver. Just saying.
So what do you think? Because I know
mean-
you're an Uber guy.
Yeah.
So Tesla comes out with something like this. Would you buy it?
Is this true? You don't drive a car?
No, I don't.
But that's a
I
good
haven't,
thing
I
for
haven't had a car.
America.
I haven't had a
It's-
car in 10 years.
It's actually the world is a safer place
Yes.
without Adam
The
driving.
sidewalks
Yes.
of Boca Raton are safe. Got
Yes.
it. Okay.
My bicycle is pretty rad, dude.
Oh my God. Did you say
Is
tricycle?
it really though? You have one
Bicycle.
of those.
I have a
do you
bike.
do you have a real nice bike, or you got one of those like?
It's a beach cruiser. I'm just taking my time. It's good for South Beach. I'm not trying to win a marathon here. But back to Tesla.
This
Wow.
is so much fun.
Danielle, imagine if we had some wine here. I feel like we do a late night, one night. Wow, like this is happening. I remember seeing, test drive. Have you seen the cars with the sign on it? Like,
The Jetsons?
that too, but you would see driverless. It would have a sign on it, driverless car. Like, just be careful. Like, we're out here, and it's happening. Like, there's full on driverless cars now. So like. You, for instance, you joked about it earlier. Imagine you buy a Tesla. You're Pat. You got Zoom calls. You're doing interviews. You're doing dream team meetings, and you're not even having to look at the road. This is pretty impressive stuff. This is like where we're at right now in life right now in 2021 is that you just get behind a wheel of a Tesla and get to where you're going.
If there was a full-on self-driving car that all you do is sit, put the address, it goes to it, would you buy it?
I mean,
Or would you still stick to Uber? Like, would you buy it? Would you buy a self-driving car? You don't do the driving. It's purely automatic.
The thing with me is why I didn't have a car was because I lived in downtown Miami, and to get anywhere I was going, it's all within $5 Uber.
Yeah.
And half the time, quite frankly, I was going to South Beach and partying and drinking, and the last thing I needed to be doing was having a car. So if you don't, and I've said this a million times, if you don't have a car payment, and if you're not paying for insurance, and you're not paying for gas and maintenance and flat tire, and somebody hits your rear view mirror, and you're driving a curve, and next thing you know, you have a nail in your, like, you can save a lot of money. And I've saved a lot of money not having essentially a $10,000 expense for 10 years, putting that into the market. We knows what's happened in the market. Like, I've gone on that. So for me, it's not about, oh, I don't want to actually drive. It's the financial component. But for someone like you, who has kids, has a family, has to drive around, you're moving, you're grooving, and you're doing 10 different things all at once, I don't see a reason why you would not consider this.
I would. I think if there's a self-driving car that takes me anywhere, the challenge is also I like driving, though. I enjoy driving. That's great. Let me tell you what happened the other day. The other day, I missed having a stick shift. Like, I miss driving stick shift.
Like our friend Paul.
Oh, I mean, you know, is your stick shift or no? Which car is stick shift?
The Challenger?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is that an option? Like, you have an option to pick up stick shift?
No, it's full manual.
It's 100% manual.
100% manual.
Oh, let me tell
I
you.
do not have the option to drive it.
Like, that does nothing for me. A stick shift car. It's like,
let
so
me
you want
tell
to
you.
do more work just to get where you're going? I need to like be reversing
But I like
and neutral.
driving. I like driving.
Okay.
I like speed. But I think for business, I would absolutely buy one. If there's a self-driving car, luxury, say you have a nice Escalade luxury self-driving car that's going to take me, I'm all in.
What have I
Sign me
told
up.
you that you need a million times?
A driver.
A personal driver.
Yeah.
Straight. Now you have it built in, and you don't got to pay the person.
Well,
You
it's
just
not
pay
fully. It's not fully. So if
What's
it
it,
was
what's it missing?
if it's a fully self-driving capability, I am all in. One of my cars will be a self-driving car.
Yeah, once the technology is proven, I'm all over it.
I am.
But I'm
all
not going to be
in.
the guinea pig.
Okay, so you're waiting.
Yeah.
You're kind of like how you don't want to be the guinea pig with the vaccine.
Let me ask
You're
you:
waiting.
are you guys
want the
okay
Johnson &
not
Johnson.
driving?
Yes.
You're okay. So you would be okay to just get into a machine and it takes you place and you're not driving?
Absolutely.
Not a fan.
No?
I
Not
mean,
you?
I would want the option still to drive, but
Yeah.
75% of the time, I don't want to drive.
Eric, you too?
I don't like driving, no.
Sam, do you like driving?
No more than an hour.
Sam loves.
Kai, what do you think?
So I think there's two components. Obviously, initially, if all the cars are digital and driving by themselves, I feel a lot safer. If you have people like Sam driving and your car is peacefully driving, self-driving, then
good
that could
point.
be an issue
If
there.
I'm driving 100 miles an hour, I'm good. Then
Yeah.
I can do that.
But then
that's a
also
good point.
there's
For
the
an
second
hour.
component though. There's the second
Only 1
component,
hour.
and that is with cars. And think of how you would change driving if you don't have to change. If you don't have to drive there. Say you have like a desk in the back where you can do something productive, and still show up where you want to go. Then you don't have the component of travel time because that could then be incorporated into doing whatever you're doing
absolutely.
anyways. So essentially how we move around would completely change in that case because now a 4-hour drive is you watching a movie for 4 hours and you get out of the car and you're somewhere else.
Or you've got Wi-Fi and you're working. And
Exactly.
You've got your laptop going.
In
and
my opinion, your little narrative there about like I love driving is going to be, a few decades from now, the equivalent of someone saying, "Oh, I just love horseback riding. I love it. I got a horse. I love it. It's my
So
favorite."
funny.
Like I think that's where we're going. Like there's eventually
You are so funny.
there's going to be every car is going to be drive. Like it's going to limit accidents.
it will mitigate. It will mitigate traffic.
All that. Everyone's going to be on the same page, and you can just do what you want to do.
Okay.
That driver who's driving slow in the fast lane, that won't exist.
That's
Wow.
every day to work. Florida people, I don't understand.
Slower drivers.
Why
move
are
to the
semis
right
driving
lane.
in the far left lane? Like, I don't get it.
Buddy, you're in the Wild West here. You're in Florida.
No, by the way, honestly, no joke. Terrible drivers here.
I don't know what they're doing. Like,
Terrible.
why are you driving 60 in the far left lane?
There's
You know who I put at the top? California, Texas, or
Landis.
Florida?
Atlanta's bad.
Florida,
I was
best
gonna say,
drivers?
Atlanta's
no,
the
best
worst.
drivers.
Oh, New York.
California, best drivers. California, Texas, or Florida? Who are the best drivers?
Probably
California.
Texas.
I say California.
Really?
Yeah.
Hands down.
Florida's the worst.
Hands down.
Well, we got 80-year-olds. We got people who just showed up in this country like out of nowhere, and they don't know what's going on. You got tourists. You got
Why are you
Europeans.
talking?
They're driving on the other side of the
Where's
story.
your prejudice with people that show up out of another country?
Nothing.
that
I
come-
like your your tan, brown skin.
you
You look great.
kidding me?
Hawaii did great on you. But here's the question for you, Pat, because I know we're going to wrap up here. Seriously, how many tickets, accidents, incidents have you been in the last handful of years, and how many cops say, "Oh, Mr. Bet David, good to see you again"? How often does that happen?
That's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Okay. So imagine if that was 0.
But I get a chance to meet a cop and we talk. We
Forget
have a good
that.
conversation together. It's a relationship
I'm
building.
good.
How
I'm
you
good.
doing, officer? How's your family?
good.
How's
Human
everybody
stimulus
doing?
All
check
right.
to the police.
Show of
Adam,
hands.
it's called networking.
Show
Yeah.
of hands. Patrick's future in politics.
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm driving.
How do you spin something like
No,
that?
Yeah. I'm
But I
good.
got to meet a great cop.
I like having a neutral relationship with cops. I don't want to talk to you. You don't need to talk to
I
me.
get
I'm not
along
going to
with
We
hate
just
on
need
you.
you to have
I
a
get along with
non-neutral
them.
relationship
Yes.
with a woman who can procreate.
I have
Cop
a lot
pulls
of
me over.
non-neutral relationships
Cop
with women. I
pulls
just
me
don't have
over.
kids.
He caught me racing in a Z06, and I was racing a motorcycle.
Oops.
Okay?
Yeah. Last
so I'm
week.
on the, and by the way, Jennifer's in my car. So I'm on the left. He's over here. Okay,
Yeah.
the bike. And I said, "You want to go?" He said, "Let's go." And I'm in Victorville out of all the places. So I'm thinking, no cops. I'm going to be safe. So he says, "Ready?" He says, "Let's go." We go. Takes off. I'm going 135 miles an hour. Cop pulls me over. I'm like, get that. And this is like reckless driving at the highest level.
You're
he
going to
pulls me over.
jail.
Jennifer's like, babe, I told you, babe. And so cop comes up. He says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I said, "Yeah, because I beat you. You couldn't catch up." He starts cracking up. He starts laughing. I said, "I beat you. You couldn't catch. The only reason you caught me is because of red light." So what the hell is the matter with you? He says, "You realize that's reckless driving." I said, "Listen, can you let me go? I don't do this often." He says, "Based on your record, you do." I said, "Just let me go."
exactly.
Just let me. He says, "You know what? Forget about it. You're craziest guy I've met. Go." Just
He let you go?
He didn't give me a ticket.
that's insane.
Well, no
That's
wonder
like,
he
give me
likes
that.
the police.
Officer Jones, wherever you are, shout out to you in
Yeah.
Victorville. You're amazing. Now I got to tell you.
Big Jones, come out to Florida.
But
Didn't
by
You
the
we?
allowed
way,
this.
by the way,
Perpetuated this drama.
Z06 going up against the bike. Guess what the bike did? Destroyed the Z06.
What kind of a bike?
It's a Gixxer. Destroyed the Z06. Destroyed the Z06.
You want to know where I'm at with this? I have zero clue what a Z06 is, a Gixxer, nothing.
Yeah.
My Uber would have come in last place. though.
Okay.
Do you know? Can I ask you a question?
Note to Adam.
Yes, ma'am.
Women like men who understand cars.
Okay.
So
all
start
right.
start studying.
That's true.
But he knows bicycles.
Whoa, well, God, that's hot.
Get
Master
on
Uber app.
Get on my handlebars, baby.
Who needs wine when you've got bicycles?
Hope you got a big trunk. I'm gonna stick my bike in it.
But what?
Did you just say that out loud?
That's a 40-year-old virgin reference. The movie.
By the way, so
Yeah.
you and Cuomo wouldn't be too far off if you were his age.
That's my guy.
You may as well call you Adam Cuomo, you know?
No, let's not start that. Let's just stick with the soy boy.
All right.
Okay, here's a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh.
I'm with Pat. We show up, LA, land LAX, boom. We get a car. It's waiting there for this guy. Like, the prince just arrived. We show up, Bentley sitting there, me, you, and Tico. Boom, we're hanging. All right, I'm in. He's like, "Adam, welcome to my world," right? You know, I'm like, "All right, I'm in LA. I'm on the
By the way,
405.
brand new, maybe a couple hundred miles on this Bentley.
Sick
$400,000 new Bentley.
Sick. Pat's
Let's
driving.
get Danny Majid. Thank you, Danny.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Danny. Pat says, let's test this bad boy out. How fast? This is the 405. Is that the
405.
This is the freeway.
But it's
This is it.
COVID 405.
Okay, whatever that means.
That means that there's not a lot of
Well, yeah,
traffic.
That's
Okay, there
California.
was
Big deal.
traffic galore.
Okay, go
There
ahead.
was.
Tell your story. I
We're-
don't want to mess this up.
Tell
for you.
your
Go
point.
ahead.
What's your point? Pat starts driving, pushes the Bentley. How fast?
But wait, I asked you a question first.
He goes, "What's the fastest you've ever gone?"
I said, "What's the fastest you've ever been in a car?"
Yeah.
That's courtesy.
"Yeah."
I give you the courtesy,
Yeah.
and then you said what?
I'm like maybe 105, maybe I don't know, 110.
I said,
know,
"How
like
about we
100.
make history together?"
That's it.
Then I asked the question. He said, "Sure." So you gave permission for us to make history
Yes.
together, and
Yes.
then what happened?
Yeah. There was consent there.
There was
Unlike
consent.
Cuomo.
That's where I'm going.
Adam,
Yes.
how many times have you said that to a woman? Let's
Yes.
make history.
Well played, sir. Well played. How fast, Danielle, do you think Mr. Bet David took the Bentley on the 405?
$140.
$140? You took the under. Can I reveal, or do you want to?
Just so you know, for all the officers that are listening to this, this
Yes.
is pure speculation.
Okay.
He's assuming this is where we went, but
So-
go ahead. Tell him what
so
you saw.
He hit 150, 155.
I was close.
And that wasn't enough for him, Danielle. So he said, let's do it again. The remix, we hit
We did it twice.
165 miles per hour.
What did it feel like?
It
though?
felt like we were driving 70.
I can't
will
drive
say.
165.
It felt like we were going 70.
We were passing cars in the freeway as if you're going 100 miles an hour and they're parked.
165 miles per hour. So now you know. When I say, Pat,
Irresponsible.
maybe you need a driver. Pat, maybe you need you need to call our good friend of the show, Elon Musk, and maybe
You know
we
what's
work out a
crazy?
deal with a driverless car.
And
Maybe
what
we
do I
that.
drive today? I drive a
Shelby.
big ass Shelby truck that
Yeah.
I go around. If I hit curbs, and you feel
Yeah.
nothing.
But your
Nothing.
rear view mirror, your side view mirror.
Somebody hit it. I
Someone
wasn't in
get
the
you.
car.
Okay.
Somebody hit it and ran off. I chased him down,
Pat,
but
what
it was too
happened
late.
when somebody hit your tire?
The guy hits my tire.
Yeah.
Do you remember the picture of that car? What happened that they hit my tire on a turn? They
Oh, yeah, yeah,
accidentally hit their entire side was trashed. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the hell happened to the car? Nothing. Just scratches on the tire. The Shelby truck
Love it.
destroyed the
And
car.
You know what's great? Do you know what a Shelby is?
Yes.
Because women like guys who know about cars. I don't know if you know
heard.
about that. I heard a thing or two.
But
We
and
go
then
to
you-
we go to
And then you got the SUV, and then you messed up the tire the first
I
day.
bought the Escalade. First time I drive it, I tore the tire.
first time.
First time.
Yeah.
10 miles.
Pat's
The
a-
curve.
a-
Well, first of all, here when you drive, it's very. If you think about it, when you're driving trucks, it's not a good idea to drive trucks. Every time I come up, I'm like, you know what? Every time I'm hitting the side. But can we avoid talking about my driving abilities and speed limit?
gonna-
Well, Adam
I'm gonna-
does
I'm
seem
gonna-
to be a bit
Are you
fascinated.
making a?
I'm gonna make a point here about
Let's
your
see it.
Shelby.
There's a point.
There's a
Okay.
point. Hit it.
Got it.
Hit it.
Let's see.
Danielle, what do you
We're gonna
drive,
get
by
a
the
louder
way?
one.
I drive a big ass Escalade.
Big ass Escalade.
The right one to drive.
BAE. We go to lunch, and this is in Miami, and we leave it's raining. We drop the cars off. Oh no, I'm sorry. Pat says we dropped the kids off. I said, all right, let me go deal with the valet. Let me jump out. It's raining. All right, we go to the restaurant. The valet guy, I don't know nothing about cars. It's like, dude, the Shelby, what's up? I'm like, yeah, all right, cool, buddy. Take the keys to the truck. We come back out. He goes, I gotta tell you, this is the valet guy. He goes, I drive Lamborghinis, I drive Ferraris, but the Shelby, my number one vehicle. I was like, really? The truck? But this Shelby, I guess, is a big deal.
A man
went-
knows his engines.
We even went into Prestige Auto, looking at ridiculous cars down in Miami, and the guy was super impressed with the
This
Shelby.
is Paganis and Bugattis.
Yes.
We were looking at real cars.
Yes,
and- yeah.
cars. But the Shelby was like the talk
They
of
only
town.
make 500 of them. They
Yeah.
don't make that many of them. So,
that what it
770
is?
horsepower,
they
yeah.
have cars for dummies. It's like a whole book you can read. To just,
Yeah, I
And then
know.
you can procreate.
So is
So
my,
the road
is
to
my-
procreation
yes,
goes
Let's make
through.
history.
Yes, my question to you, Danielle, is
He's gonna make history.
is
And
my
he's gonna
ability
make a
to
baby.
procreate
What happened to today's podcast?
tied to the ability to have a car payment? Is that what's going on?
No. You've got to. You've
Money you have. This is not money.
That's not about
Here's your future
Yes.
line. I buy my cars cash.
Okay,
You could.
I could do that.
You could. If you were to buy one, would you still do a Range Rover deal, or maybe that E500 you saw, like an E-Class?
I did like a nice
Mercedes?
E-Class Mercedes. That could be dope.
Go for the V12.
50 grand, what? V12?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
I don't see you as a Lexus guy. Don't do Lexus.
That's for
You
girls.
know what's crazy is I actually bought my ex a Lexus. That's the only car.
That rhymes, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like Adam's a
Bought my
Tesla
ex
kind
up.
of guy.
You think Adam's a
Thinking about-
Tesla kind of
If
guy?
Yeah,
it's,
I
if it's
feel like-
driverless.
By the way, I actually see him as a Tesla guy.
It's
That's
got
a-
style.
that's
It's got.
You know what else I really see him in? No joke. I see him in a nice 911.
Oh yeah.
I see him in a nice. I think
What's
you
a 911?
Oh my gosh!
stop
Porsche?
it.
Is that a
Will
Porsche?
Smith
Ford
drove.
Focus 911.
I love a Ford Focus.
See,
No, no,
I did.
Did you really say you don't know what?
You're
Honestly, you
lucky
don't know what a
that I did not
911
say
is?
what I
Porsche?
just thought.
Oh
Is that
my
a
It was
Porsche?
bad.
This is not.
Is it a Porsche?
Ladies,
I almost
please
said you're
skip
never
this-
gonna get laid. I
Today's
almost
podcast.
said that.
Skip today's podcast.
Okay,
What's a 911?
listen. Okay, you want to talk about getting laid? Let me tell you something. No. I had a-
911.
He's gonna make history.
He's gonna make history. He
Okay,
does every weekend.
when I would live in South, when I lived in
Beware
South
Miami
Beach,
this weekend.
yes, when I live in South Beach, I had a sick apartment
Okay.
in the Marquee, okay, and here it is, a loft, amazing. Like my friend called it abajo panty party, abajo panty like a penny dropper
Incredible
apartment.
Spanish. Incredible Spanish.
So you go out in South Beach, you meet
Oh
girls,
my
whatever.
gosh.
You take an Uber back to your place. They don't give two shits about what kind of car you drive there into your apartment. It's great. So that's my point. Like, you never have to sit, like.
Bro, I'm just telling you.
Times have changed, is what I'm saying.
I don't think
have
anybody is
changed.
disputing
Yes.
your track record with how well of a prospector you are. We've all witnessed it. You know
Prospector.
how well you are. His approach is so great. This is Adam. He goes to a place. Hey, ladies, I have some friends here. How are you? Good. Well, why don't you let me introduce you?
Yeah.
Basic
I'm looking-
script he's
I'm-
got. He
I-
just goes.
For my friends here.
Yeah.
Except for Paul.
I've not been the recipient of any of Adam's goodwill.
Well, I think a
Grandma.
part
I've
of
taken,
Grandma.
I've taken bullets, bombs.
part
You're
of
a
that is
non-wingman
being
for
a
Paul?
good
I tried-
running mate.
Oh my God. I tried to help Paul out.
Stop.
It's like you can't help the
Stop.
unhelpable.
You can't help.
I tell you the
unhelpable.
one story I told about Paul. When I just moved to Dallas, we're going to a bar, and I have no clue where we're going. So who do I want to ask? Any nice local lady? Hey, ladies, like, are we on the right direction through the good part of town? Like, they're like, yeah, go that way. There's bars. Thank you. Cool. After one or two girls that we speak to, Paul's like, I have the GPS right here. Why do you keep asking all these girls?
It was
I'm
literally like
I
5
have
feet
the
in front of
direction.
us. Like I
Didn't
just
matter.
mentally couldn't deal with that.
didn't
Like
matter.
we're not morons. Like these girls are like, this guy's a retard. Like it's just right across the street. Like,
Why do you keep asking these pretty girls for directions? I have the GPS. Like, what are you doing, bro?
I don't like looking clueless though. You know,
Play dumb.
girls like
do it all the time.
intelligent people too.
Yeah, that's working out well for you guys.
Yeah, it does. I do fine. I do just fine.
Okay.
Shout out to all my ladies out there.
We're thinking of
He
you, Susan.
drives. Hey, you don't drive a car, and he drives a stick shift car.
Yes.
So he's
We
got
couldn't be further apart right now.
further apart.
0 car, stick shift.
So
Putting in a lot of
moving
work.
forward.
But technically
don't.
speaking, he knows how to drive.
Yes, that's true.
So do you honestly? Do you now know what a 911 is?
I think it's a Porsche.
Would you? It is a Porsche
Yeah, I'm not a Porsche guy.
at all.
Too small. I don't
Have you
think it's
sat in one?
Have I ever been in a Porsche? Yeah.
Have you driven one?
No. How did we get here, by the way? Like,
Clearly.
this whole
I
show
tell
just
you,
got...
I tell you, I think you would just go sit in one time.
All right.
Just go sit in one. Matter, you know what? Why don't you rent a Porsche for a day? It's like $500, $400.
Just to drive a Porsche?
Just to get a feel on what it feels like. I see you in a Porsche
Just
or Tesla.
expense it to valuetainment.
Yeah.
Done.
I just don't see Lex. By the way, last
Good
thing
call.
here. Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen start a podcast.
Yes.
Together, okay? A president and a rock star start a podcast. It's going to be called Renegades Born in the USA. It's part of a multi-year partnership with Spotify, Barack and Michelle Obama's production company, Higher Ground. Spotify's deal with Higher Ground announced in June of 2019 was one of its earlier big bets in the podcast industry. Earlier the same year, Spotify acquired podcast studio, Gimlet Media, Okay, got it. So, how do you think this is going to go with these guys starting a podcast together? By the way, somebody said Adam is officially a 9'4". I just want you to know that.
Oh, wow.
Adam also just got $5
getting-
for a Porsche 911.
Yeah, they're pitching in
Are you
that
being
fund.
serious?
Yeah. Yimmy just donated.
That's a down
Guys,
payment.
Down
we
payment on
need
your
another
rental.
$96,000 if you guys can
times
put
are
it
tough.
up.
I'm putting a
Watch you
GoFundMe
raise
for
some
We just need
You're raising
$495 more for the rental. Just one day.
That's right. We only need $495 for the rental. Valuetainers will support it. But Bruce Springsteen.
We're going to
and-
start a GoFundMe for Adam.
Can I get from a 8.5 to an 8.2 to a potential 9.2 with the
9'4".
Porsche?
No, no. You pull
Yeah, but
up
you
in
know
a
what?
Porsche.
9.4 does not round up to 10, FYI.
Wow.
You pull up with a Porsche. You're getting close to a dime.
Absolutely.
Wow, this
Yeah.
is what's happening?
Yes.
So it's
That's
an
why
emotional
men buy
thing.
Porsches, by the way.
Wow.
Yes. So now, Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen, how good is it going to do?
Okay, number one, that's potentially going to be the -- 1 podcast on the planet, other than ours.
Okay.
Clearly, especially when we talk about the car stuff.
9/11?
You have I think there's 2 parts of this story here, and then I'm going to turn it over to the lovely Danielle DiMartino booth. Renegades born in the USA. You don't think that's like a birther joke? Like, come on, Trump. Born in the USA, 2-term president.
Really don't think they're going there.
I think that's exactly where they're going. Number one, Bruce Springsteen's greatest hit is arguably Born in the USA.
And Born in the USA, Springsteen, one time Trump was playing it. He said, I don't want you to play that song. So I want
Exactly.
you to take that
There's
down.
a shot
Yeah.
here at Trump, by the way. There's 100% a shot here at Trump.
Oh, that
Trump,
I see.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's exactly
Okay.
what I'm saying. Trump obviously rose to power through birtherism.
birther. Yeah,
On the
that's true.
birtherism thing. Born in the USA, Renegades. So I think he's going right at Trump. And don't think that, obviously we talked about governors being competitive and to become president, you need to be competitive. I'm sure presidents are the most competitive. And if Trump and Obama are ever in a room together, you know Obama's going to be like, 2 terms, baby. 2 terms. Born in the USA. Fist bump. I'm out. Drop the mic. You've seen Bob drop the mic. I'm just think that's where he's at with that.
Do you think it's going to do good?
Oh, gosh. I mean, who doesn't love Bruce Springsteen? I'm sorry. Is somebody else involved?
This guy named Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm sure he'll be a nice accoutrement.
He was a former
he's
two-term.
he's the side dish to Bruce Springsteen's main dish?
By the way, who's going to have better stories?
I think Obama's he's going to, I think Obama, you take off your politics hat and, maybe he inhales once or twice in his life. I don't know. I'm speculating.
Once or twice.
That's what I'm saying. Like these days,
It's not once or twice.
lets his hair down, maybe puts a little afro sheen in that thing. I think he could have a great set of stories. I think it could be really fun. With Obama
So then the question becomes the following. What? Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there for you.
He had me at afro sheen.
Wait, but hear me out.
Just let your soul glow. By the way, Coming to America 2 is coming out this weekend. Speaking of soul glow and afro sheen.
Okay, so Renegades Born in the USA,
Yes.
Obama and Springsteen.
Yes.
Say a year from now, another podcast gets started.
Yeah.
Trump and Kid Rock. Who wins?
Wow, that would actually be
Trump
kind of
and
dope.
Kid Rock podcast, or
Yeah.
Obama and you know what I'd love to
I can see that.
I would love Trump and Kid Rock or somebody like that to start a podcast. Kid Rock is pretty loud as well, so if they started it together and they have it to see how competitive these two podcasts
Eminem.
would be.
Well, Eminem hates Trump. But
But
Kid
if
Rock, I think, is
but
a
if
fan.
Kid
no?
Rock and Trump did it, Obama and Bruce do it, who wins? Actually, who wins? What do you think?
I
Which
actually
podcast-
think Trump would win.
You think Trump would win?
I think, listen, as much as I'm not a fan of Trump, people are tuning in to this, what that monster has
More
to say.
than Obama.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
I'd agree with
Because-
Adam, but there's one reason why. I
Yeah.
think Trump would say more kind of outlandish
Yes.
things, which is what you often want
Well,
from a
Yeah.
podcast,
It's the
as
shock-
opposed
it's
to
the
what,
shock
what
factor.
Obama would.
Why do you think you have me here? Listen.
To make
Howard
history,
Stern,
baby.
Howard Stern said it and said it best. People that love Howard Stern listen for an hour. Why? Because they want to hear what he says next. People that hate Howard Stern listen for an hour and a half. Why? Because they want to hear what he has to say next. You said it earlier in the show. Media ratings are down because Trump's not around. People want to hear what he has to say next. It's outlandish, it's ridiculous, it's divisive, it's racist, whatever you want to call it.
If it bleeds, it leads.
They want to hear what it has to say. What
Let
Trump
me
has
tell
to say.
you. Do you think there's any chance he starts a podcast? Do you think there's Kai? Turn off your mic. Do you think there's any chance he starts a podcast?
I think with Trump, there's a chance for anything.
Okay.
An insurrection, a podcast,
Yeah.
who knows? It's all
It would be-
it's all on the cards.
Okay.
Epic.
So that is the end of today's podcast. When is our next one, gang? When is it?
We're
Is it
back next Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay. So next Tuesday we're back on the podcast here, Danielle. It's been a pleasure having you.
Great to be here.
We are looking forward to the next time. I know you got some things you're doing here the next couple days.
Yeah.
Adam's got an interview that's going to be coming out with Danielle.
Yes.
That should come out in the next week, so stay tuned for that. But everybody that tuned in, if you enjoyed it, smash that subscribe button and have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.